Hello and welcome to Indiepocalypse Radio, the one and only indie game show. I'm your host Andrew, and I am fresh off of a convention in which my first online virtual event in which I sat around and read comic books for about 6 hours as nobody visited my booth. I am here with my first guest, James. James, how you doing? Wait. Hello, James.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I was first. I'm
You are
sorry.
first.
Hello, everyone. I was reading comic books as well. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Andrew, thanks for having me on. It
Hey,
was
thank
uh, it
you
was
for
really
being
cool to
on.
be at Boston Fig. Reconnect with my fellow indies. I don't know why I'm doing this voice. I'm doing a radio voice. I'm sorry.
Well, this is a
No,
radio
Boston Fig was
show.
awesome. It's a radio show, so we got to do the radio voice. Yeah, no, but it was great. We chatted for a bit at Boston Fig, but it was awesome to do what I would consider my favorite virtual convention, video game or otherwise, during the continued real apocalypse as well as the indie apocalypse.
Yes, no. For me, it was very similar to my usual experience, which is I had pretty much nobody visit the booth, and I completely checked out for the last 2 hours.
Yeah, that's usually I feel like some days of a convention, like an IRL convention, are like that, and this was just that one day. We had our one day and we had that. So but it was great because I didn't have to,
Yeah,
uh take off my sweatpants and got to play some indie games. So
right, exactly. I just did it from my house. I rolled out of bed. I set up. I went like, oh, I can just go on my second monitor. I can just look at Bandcamp, and find all my albums, and do all that kind of work, and get ready. And I couldn't do this if I was in a like convention center or a gymnasium or something.
I did end up finding it because it was an actual full day of conventions, right? It was like 10 to 5. I did end up eating out the same amount, though, so I do not feel great. But, that never changes, I guess. The time commitment's still there.
Yeah, I mean, after these radio shows, I usually go out and I buy food because, as I think I talked about last week, it fills me with the weird feeling of like a post convention hangout, and then I'm going back to my hotel room and I need to go get food. So I need to like go out and get food after I do this show.
It's these rituals that keep us connected to our indie spirits,
Yes,
barely
by this.
surviving, barely surviving prolonged social contact. I won't say physical because no one was next to each other, but still, I don't know. I'm wiped out. Also, I find I'm always wiped out at the end of cons, and
Yeah,
more so, I have trouble. I mean, this is something we were just talking before the show, but like, I'd like to maybe do some like development streams for future projects. But doing any sort of stream, I almost find like the cons work to energize me. I'm energized a little more by being up in front of people,
yeah,
talking back and forth. But this is just like after a stream, even for like 2 hours, I'm like gasping for air. I'm wiped out. I don't know what it is. I have like the opposite thing where I'm like online where no one's around me. I feel like I'm more anxious to chat with people.
yeah. Like this, I thought doing the show would be relieving, relaxing. I would talk to people. Instead, it's made me extremely anxious about being locked up forever.
We're already working on indie games. We already feel terrible. Why do we
Yeah. Oh,
continue to do this?
speak for yourself. I haven't worked on an indie game in like 8 months or something.
Oh, I haven't for a few months either, but
Right,
that's
right.
just
Yeah, of
because
course.
I finished one and then I got to catch up on the past 3 years of narrative games I'd been missing out on.
Yeah, I bought a game maker pack for making actually good text boxes, so I don't have to worry about doing that ever. But that's it. Anyway, James, tell me a little bit about yourself.
About myself,
Presuming I did,
hello.
presume I don't know who you are at all.
Yeah. Andrew and I ended up being the one fateful year 2019. We ended up being neighbors for two conventions, pretty much like back to back, right? It
Yeah,
was pretty close. It was uh
unless you had one in between. They were back to back for me.
yeah, I didn't love the one that you weren't there at, and now maybe I'm kind of seeing why I didn't. No, I really try never to get sick, especially at a convention. But I ended up doing convention, yeah, in between those two, and got super sick. And my teammate told my roommate to hide a bunch of cookies in my room while we were at the convention. Like he unwrapped cookies and left them everywhere and got like grease stains on stuff.
Nice.
Bad convention, but you know, Andrew and I met. You know, you and I'm saying this to our audience. You and
Yeah,
I
right.
met. Do I acknowledge the audience? I can never tell.
I listen. I acknowledge that I recognize that there's an audience that exists. If you want to read the chat and acknowledge that they exist, I do not, unless I personally know the person, because
Let's
that's
get
just not who I am.
let's get like a. We got to really build the brand. Let's get like a name, a cute name for the audience. What's up, little indies out there? All my
Never.
super indies. I'm sorry, we're not going to do that.
You,
Um,
my tombstone is gonna say no branding on it. Never.
I'm corporate. I'm hijacking the show. I'm gonna get one of those tombstones where some company pays you so you can advertise. They can advertise on your tombstone. Whatever. I don't care. Anyways,
Yeah. So where do
I
we
am
meet?
a
I forget. No, I don't remember. But you were, as you were saying, up in the great
I'm an
north.
indie developer in Boston, Mass, in the U.S. of A. One of the states of A. And
Yeah.
yeah, Andrew and I met doing conventions. We did both Toronto Comic Arts Festival, which was really amazing
Yeah.
in Toronto. Never been to Toronto before. And then we did MomoCon, which was like which is an anime con. I guess was at this point. I hope they can come back. But
Yeah.
MomoCon is like I feel like it's an anime con with a super small indie game section, but they're really nice to indies. They give pretty much almost all the indies free space,
Yeah.
which like that, and Magfest, which Magfest is pretty much done for at this
Backfest
point.
is a whole other thing. That was the first show. I was like, oh, I could submit Indiepocalypse as radio. Now I've made a panel. I can just submit my thing as panels. I submitted to that, and then it fucking imploded on itself.
Yeah, there was news about Magfest today during Boston Fig, but let's not talk about that because
Yeah.
we don't really fully know whatever. But MomoCon is weird because it's this convention where we only picked up, you know, like a handful of fans, but they're like our most intense, passionate fans.
Yeah.
And then also super wrestling fan and cult game designer extraordinaire Suda51 has weirdly made that like his home base in the US. He always does these big announcements at MomoCon, this random anime. I mean, you know, it's not E3 or anything, so I don't know why he does that, but it's
Yeah.
great that he does.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, and honestly, the space itself is like a great like placement for like indie games. Like,
Totally.
within the physical space, like you are between the merch and you between artist alley, so they have to walk through that a lot.
Yeah, it ruled. So, anyways, yeah. So, you know, I make games, and I met Andrew. I met you through these cons, and you were pretty chill, along with the rest of my team.
Yeah.
And I'm a developer. I feel like this is the longest roundabout. We've been talking about games and game stuff all day. My brain is like
Oh, speak for yourself.
off
I've been
on
talking
another
about
thing.
I was also
But
like, my thing at Fig broke apparently at some point because nobody could hear me.
oh yeah, I had to reset my Yeti mic. Anyways,
Yeah.
you know, but if you weren't at Boston, you had to be there.
Yeah.
No,
This is that
but,
inside
but-
baseball they all talk about.
I make yeah. This is the secret indie stuff. The indie club. I make video games with a company studio called Rude Ghost, and a couple members in there.
Not to
We,
be
we make I don't know how many people to shout out because
Yeah.
I'm just thinking my last game had like over 20 team members.
That's too many people.
But
You're
You-
sure
uh,
we don't have time
that's the
for
thing.
that.
I like to get everybody involved.
Yeah.
I wish I could be the talented kind of solo dev, but I have I would consider myself a director of games, but director in the way where there's a problem to be solved. So I just get in a room with all these people, and I just keep coming up with solutions, and people keep yelling at me and saying that's not the right solution until I finally say one thing where everyone goes, yeah, I think that'll work good. Let's go with that, and then we do it. But yeah, I work a company called Rude Ghost, and we just released just a little under 3 months ago a game called Pixel Puzzle Makeout League, published by SkyMap Games. You know, I got a publisher, but they're
Right.
still a pretty small New Hampshire-based kind of development. You know, they do contract work as well, studio. So we're just the little guys, but I guess punching above our weight class in a way, trying to make that double I, that triple I indie game. No,
Yes, I mean you just gotta. Did you come with years and years of AAA experience and a healthy network of game journalists who knew you?
look, let's not talk about the narrative games that got a lot of coverage over my game over the past few months.
Let's not
It's
talk about
all
the
good.
let's not talk about the big popular roguelikes of the past year.
No, I mean we tease. I mean that
We
game. I
can't be
haven't
all.
played it, but
We
oh, am I still on? Am I still good? Did I lose myself? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. I jostled my microphone. We're good. Wait, did you drop out now as well? What's going on here?
Now, am I good?
Yes, you're good. You're good.
Okay, I'm sorry. So funny thing is, my audio is probably going to drop in quality, but I did a internal stream to a friend on Discord
Yeah.
to play an FMV game. It was a game called Death Come True, and it
Okay.
was by the director of Danganronpa, who like now has his own indie studio, and I did an internal stream on Discord just because one of the actors of the FMV game literally comes out like it's a Japanese game. He like comes out and bows and says, "Thank you for not streaming this game on Twitch." And I was like, "Well, I can't stream this then in good faith."
Right.
So what I did was I just streamed it internally on Discord, and it just ruined. I mean, it absolutely destroyed my Discord settings. Like I cannot uh, do reliable audio through Discord anymore, which is great because uh, talking about my indie game history is finally like I'm actually doing a bit of paid work for some secret projects for like the first time in the 7 years of my indie game career, and like I can't have calls with anyone anymore because my Discord is like busted.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I have to remember to because I have to use voice meter for this show so I can hear your audio and I can spit out all these different audio channels all over the place. And everything sounds good now. I'm presuming you're still talking. I accidentally just jostled my microphone cord, which is
no, this is the part of the show where before I even say anything interesting, I've already ruined it. So
that we both happen to have audio problems at the exact same time, which was a
that
weird
was
thing.
strange. We were actually in the same room. We haven't revealed to anyone we've been living together.
Yeah, we are recording
For
back to
months.
back at the moment so that we don't flood into each other's audios at the channels.
It's like one of those buddy cop movies where we have to climb up a building and in between a building, and we got our backs to the wall. We're stepping up the wall.
Yeah,
It
except
sounds like
we're recording a
the building
radio
is
show while we
good
do
fun.
it.
We're just kicking our mics over and over again. So, anyways, before I completely ruin your show, yeah. So again, I'm James, beautiful James on Twitter. I work for a studio. I made a studio. I made the damn studio called
Yes.
Rude Ghost. At Rude Ghost Games on Twitter. No, we're not called Rude Ghost Games, but that was the Twitter that I could get.
Not to be
It's one of those
confused
things
with
where,
not to be confused with Fun Ghost, as I often confused you with.
which was weird because I really didn't know Chris Mayer over at Boston Indies, and we met at the you used to go to this too. I don't think we ever ran into each other, but the Black Market Flea that was
Yeah.
put on by Boston Hassel. I
No,
actually,
I think you stopped going after I started going.
yeah, because I stopped going because I think my coworker at my day job, or my old coworker, she did like the social media for Boston Hassel. She was very clued in. She's like, "You got to come," and I was like, "Sure." I think I met Chris there, but we kind of knew of each other. But now we're pretty cool. And now Chris Mayer sells floppy disks of my previous game, Thief Town, at conventions,
Well,
which is always fun
theoretically,
to
in a
see.
world in which you can go out to
Yeah,
markets and sell
he
things.
did. He did sell it at one point. I did have physical proof. Someone did buy one, which was great.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
We were
I've been
at
doing
shows and
indie
someone
stuff.
was like, I know that game.
Been doing
And oops, wait, you're gone
indie 7
again.
years now. Oh my god, am I back? Hello.
You're very garbled. You sound like you're
God,
speaking. You got hello?
hold on, hold on. I'm switching over. I'm switching over.
Okay. Oh, those are very crisp and clear sounding click.
Now, do I sound better?
You sound about the same.
God, I moved to my phone. I'm like having business calls and stuff I'm having like calls with new team members, and I'm like, I cannot call on Discord. Anyways, sorry for ruining your show. I'm James. I made a game called Pixel Puzzle Makeout League with a bunch of people. It's a Picross themed dating sim, or rather Pixel Puzzle, because Picross is not trademarked by Nintendo in North America, but it is trademarked by Nintendo in Europe. And I had to change the name so we could release on Switch. But
Yeah.
Pixel Puzzle Makeout League, it's a pixel puzzle game, aka a Picross game, aka a nonograms game.
Is it not okay? Is it nonogram? I thought nonograms were something else, but
no, it is nonograms, but it's sort
Okay.
of one of those things where I don't know. It's like how it's not chomping at the bit, it's champing at the bit.
yeah.
Where it's like, okay, this is technically correct, but I'm going to sound like a jerk if I say this. Which of course I do love saying.
I
so.
champ at all the bits. It's very important to champ at bits. Nobody chomps on a bit.
Let me tell
around
you, you
these
ever
parts.
see a bit that's unchamped? Better watch out. I'm champing.
I am. You might say I'm champing at the bit at the opportunity for it, but let's ignore these semantics. These semantics aside.
Yeah. So it's a puzzle-based dating sim that's 100% more family friendly than Honey Pop.
100% or like
100%. Compared to what's in Honey Pop, it's like all right, 88%.
Now,
you know what's
James,
funny?
I have a question for you. Have you ever considered dipping into the lucrative and time-honored tradition of horny puzzle games?
That's the funny thing is like it's so weird. I have to I have to censor myself almost when describing the game, like I just did for Boston Fig. This is a game where it's rated T for teen only for suggestive themes.
Yeah.
So we're really rated. I mean, we have less lyrical content than like I think Rock Band has like a harder rating, like it's a harder T rating because of like swearing and songs. We don't even say the word damn in our damn video game.
What? I think they can say damn on any kind of television nowadays, even for children.
Yeah, it's a superhero story. I think we tried to balance it out. I don't know. I just didn't feel right for the story. Not that I'm against saying fucking horrible shit, but but
Good
it's really
good catch.
Yeah. Well, so it's interesting, right? I made this puzzle theme dating sim, and it's a game where you are a Picross. I'm just going to use Picross as the term for this.
Yeah,
for example.
we won't tell Nintendo around here these parts.
It's a Picross themed dating sim where you play a Picross superhero named Pixel Girl.
Yeah.
Who sees all of her life's problems as pixel puzzles. Because for those that don't know Picross, all the solutions are pixel art. You know, it's like a Sudoku. You solve a Sudoku. Okay, I filled out the numbers 1 through 9. But Picross, all the answers are you're filling out a picture, and then it'll reveal the picture, which just seemed like a natural fit for a narrative-based game. But then I realized, this is a perfect fit. But why in the story would someone be solving all these puzzles based on real life? So I thought, well, what if they're a superhero where they literally are visualizing problems as puzzles to be solved and then solving them? And I thought that's pretty good. Well, how can we play off this more? Well, what if she was a member of this group called the Puzzle League?
Okay. The titular Puzzle League.
The titular Puzzle League of all these puzzle-themed superheroes, including a chess-themed superhero, chess puzzle-themed superhero. There is a difference. They do talk about it in the story. A crossword-themed puzzle superhero, a Sudoku-themed superhero, and Picia, which is just the word piece with an A at the end of it. Our jigsaw puzzle.
Now, James, I got to ask you. I got to stop you right here for a moment, because your title implies the existence of not a puzzle league but a makeout league. Is there a makeout league in your game?
So that's split up, right? It's sort of like Death Stranding, right? There's the death element and there's the stranding element, right?
Okay, yes, I understand.
Or like technical. What is it? It's like what is the Metal Gear Solid subtitle? It's like tactical action or whatever.
Tactical action espionage.
Action.
Action.
Yeah, we're doing the whole Japanese make up your own genre and then get coverage for it. Tactical espionage action. Yeah. So we are. God, I'm sorry. We have we lay in all the elements right in the title. We have pixel puzzles. We have a league.
That's true.
League could be a puzzle league. League could be a league of their own, etc. And then we promise exactly one makeout in the game per player.
Exactly one? No more, no less?
Yep. Yeah, no, I just realized that's actually airtight. And that's the funny thing is someone was really nice. They actually finished the entirety of the game and came up to me at Boston Fig Virtual to say, hey, and they were like, well, why isn't I was hoping for a little more romance, and my joke answer is, well, we promised one in the title. What do you expect, right?
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's not like
perfect.
Metal Gear. It's like Metal Gear Solid, right? They're not going to have any other states of matter in there, right? I mean, that would be
Right,
silly. They only promised
it's not
one.
Metal Gear is solid.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. There's only one Metal Gear, and it is indeed solid. To include any others would just be a bonus. Would be a wealth of riches. Um, but yeah, the fact is, there's one Makeout. I'm sorry. No,
Yes.
but the fact is, we're making a puzzle dating sim, and people already hear the word dating sim and start to think of bad things, naughty
Yeah.
things, including, I mean, primarily Honey Pop. When you say a puzzle dating sim, I feel like Honey Pop has kind of
Yeah, but
polluted
okay.
the waters in a way.
Yes.
Not in a. I mean, there's some. Never mind. I'm not going to defend Honey Pop in any way. I think it's fine. Whatever. I bought it. I played it. I'm not going to defend it. I gave them money. What do you want from me? But no, people start to kind of correct themselves and kind of talk themselves out of it in a way, when in reality, right, it's a very kind of. I'm not going to use the word wholesome, dear God. But it's a kind of pure.
Wait wait a minute. No wholesome games. Your game's not wholesome.
No, it's absolutely not. It's
How do you not have flattened vector art that looks like every other game?
Let's not be. All right, I'm trying to be. I don't know how pirate, how indie this radio show is, but
I mean,
no,
listen, my general philosophy as the editor and curator of Indiepocalypse is I can throw shit wherever I want because I don't care. Nobody cares about me. And I
Look,
think
I've got
I
a
just think
publishing deal
that
from
look
the
is
next one.
generic, and a lot of games have it. And I'm like, I hate when like everything becomes like a kind of a brand,
Yeah, I think that's the value. Certainly the luster has waned sadly in years after, but that was the trick of Hot of a Boyfriend, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Hot of a Boyfriend came from a place of passion, right?
Right.
Noah, the creator, genuinely friggin' loves birds and loves her own bird enough to put it in the game, right? That's great. And there's the twist, for those that don't know, of Hot of a Boyfriend, where the story veers off into the madness, right?
Yeah.
But the fact is it's a story that presents itself in one way and then finishes it off in another way. And I just think the fact is, at least there's something truly trying to be said and trying to poke at the player in some way. I mean, realistically, now that I make games, I understand that don't ever expect a game to change someone's life, right? It's nice. It is astounding that it happens to me or to anyone, right? That any art would actually influence anyone, right? I mean,
I'm influenced by art every day. That's all I do is I sit around and get influenced by art.
Yeah, what I mean is like against all odds, right? It's like with all the world as it is, it's insane that art can have that kind of meaning for people. And it's nice to hear, from people that have been affected by Pixels and Makeout League. So I think it's important then, if you only got one shot, you're only making one of that thing, right? So being able to present it, I mean, wholesome, feel good kind of games are fine in a way, but it's still nice in some way to prod and at least expand the player's worldview, little mindset, just a little bit, right? Is a little bit. I'm not saying you have to destroy the entire world and pull the player out into the real world like Pixel Puzzle Makeout League might do. But it's just, I guess it's just it's something I was thinking about game developers as magicians, right? To a lot of players, people have no idea how indie games are made. Go on any internet forum and you'll see. No, I mean, people always hate on that, but really, there's really truly, and I even know so little about making games. I only know how to make games my one way, right? With my own team and my own skill set. To make something like, I mean, you can look at like something like Cyberpunk and very clearly see like what exactly happened and why it happened, but there's no way you could say that could be fixed in a reasonable way or to change kind of the AAA development cycle that way. But you can definitely try to understand it, but truly, unless you're in there, it's totally crazy. But the fact is that so many people know so little about indie game development, but that is not a bad thing. That is like our secret weapon, right? So Pixel Puzzle Makeout League is a game that is a dating sim where you solve puzzles and date superheroes. However, Pixel puzzles in that game, you could probably guess, are to be used during dates, right? You solve puzzles on dates, and you're a superhero, right? So you would solve puzzles to save the day, right?
Right, and that's solving puzzles is how people like me now. Whoa, fuck! I dropped something.
Yeah, but solving puzzles in Pixel Puzzle Makeout League also is a way to accidentally destroy a T-Rex exhibit at a museum. Pixel puzzles are a way to connect in a actual 3D playable fake RuneScape style MMORPG and flirt with your crush online. Pixel puzzles are a way to order a drink. They're a way to open doors. They are a way to accidentally destroy half of a city.
They're a way to access my menus.
They are not.
Are they a way in order to start and quit the game?
We're not going to make you do that. We're not going to go full J blow on that. But pixel puzzles are a way to connect the two main characters, but also bring in the player as a puzzle solver and hopefully maybe impart a little bit of the game's knowledge on them. So it got me thinking, is like, not to be totally against wholesome content, but it's just nice to think, you got your one shot, you're a magician, add a little prestige to what you're making, right? Because no one knows what you're making until they sit down to play it, and then once you have them, I don't know, shake their skull a little bit, throw them for a loop, even if it's something small,
Yeah.
What's that game Passage, right? That classic early indie game Passage. It's like the perfect example.
Made by famous prepper Jason Rohrer.
Yeah. Actually, the problem with Jason Rohrer, right, is that more people do understand how to make indie games. Just go make his indie game again. Anyway, so I don't know. I feel like I'm doing a weird interview because we already know each other.
I'm just letting you talk. If people want to talk, I just let them talk, and I don't intrude too often. I feel like I don't have a full I'm waiting till I get my familiarity with the audience so that I can have my rapport and people know what they're getting into.
Now this is the part of the show where we totally ask the question.
Oh, I don't ask questions around here. I want to avoid asking questions. I had one show a few minutes back where we did but a short scene in which someone pitched their game to me as a company executive, and I felt too powerful in that moment. Like, that is what this show will become if I am left to be unhinged and in control. But I need
unhinged and in control. That's a damn good name for a game. I'm gonna borrow that.
Yeah, I don't care about. I even took the play your game aspect off it, because while it was enjoyable, there was nothing wrong with the one time I did it. I was like, I really don't want this to be like a PR show,
Totally.
There's so much PR and something or other, and I'm tired, and I can't listen to someone's PR speech forever. And
yeah, you're getting the true indie from me. We're anti-wholesome. We're anti-AAA.
Yeah, I'm anti-video games.
We're also anti-indie. I mean,
I just hate all video games.
Hey, let me redeem myself when as a grumpy. I'm not even in my 30s at this point. What's wrong with me? No. Let me redeem myself and say, I finished last night at about 2 a.m. I did finally play Dream Daddy.
Okay.
All the way through, and you know what? I had fun with it. It was fun. It had some fun parts.
Here's my sweeping take on games in which you date things that you don't usually date. They're probably fine. Fine.
Indiepocalypse's review of Pixel Puzzle Makeout League. Hey, so the funny thing is,
there's more stuff in that. You do picross games, so even if I just hit tab and fast forward through all the writing, no, I mean like where I'm dating dads or I'm dating different breeds of bird. Listen, I mean.
No, I mean, right. Hot to Full Boyfriend spawned that.
I want to have I feel like I want to if I had the time, I wanted to start another show where we play through games, and like, because I want to play through Shadowrun with people on the Genesis because I love that game to death, and I want other people to understand Shadowrun.
Didn't they just release that on the Nintendo Online, or am I making that up?
Did they? No, I feel that'd probably be the Super Nintendo version, but maybe they did.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, it wouldn't be the Genesis one.
Which is a point-and-click adventure, but this Genesis version is something very different. I think it's fascinating and evergreen and an amazing recreation of a tabletop game into a video game. But also, like, Hatoful Boyfriend is interesting because, I mean, granted, first of all, it's not from the U.S. It's from Japan. It has a whole different culture pretty much none of us are aware of. But also, it's like pre this kind of like style of game that we think of Hatoful Boyfriend being.
Oh, totally. It's so funny. I listen. Can I plug another podcast that I enjoy? Is that allowed?
Yes, you may. You may.
Did I just call this a podcast? I'm so sorry.
I guess it technically is because people wanted it to be, so I did put it out as a podcast.
I did go looking for episodes, and I'm like, where can I find these? So I'm glad that they're going up. I'm going to go back and listen to them. But
yeah.
No, there's a show I listen to called the Gaming Cult Podcast, which is nice because they talk about games, but they also talk about cult genres of music. It's a real mixed bag. It's not just game stuff. It's nice. But they were really the people, I think, in a small sect. I don't know how far out it went, but they got me into Hatoful Boyfriend like 2012.
Yeah.
Like back when you had to download weird plugins to play it. Like I was in college, I tried it out. I didn't finish it, honestly, right? I didn't get to any of the really weird stuff, but I was like, oh, this is cool. And they were saying, how weird is it that they kind of got a group of people to get really into that, and then sort of so quickly in the few years, games came out called like I Am Bread, where you're like a slice of bread, and there's like a theme song about how you're bread or whatever. And it's like, they're like, how quickly did this just like turn around to being like a genre that we go for the weirdness, go for the wackiness, like straight up. I guess making something that's like played to be streamed, right? It's really weird how quickly that turned around. It was like 3-year turnaround on that. I mean, and this was even before like Hatoful Boyfriend was like fully published in English and everything, or sorry, official English translation.
Yes,
right?
yes.
But that's
that's a whole other like weird discussion about like the legacy of something and how quickly like a derivative of a derivative of a derivative, and like how closely does the most recent game in which you date different styles of IKEA chair personified as cute anime people. How close does that resemble Hatoful Boyfriend at this point? Like at all?
Yeah. I mean, the true insanity of that is the Kentucky Fried Chicken dating sim, which I even hate to like mention to give it like coverage and all, but it's like, dear God, we're here. But developing something like that, I mean, to be honest, I've developed a dating sim in structure. I like to consider myself I like to consider Pixel to Makeout League the Paper Mario of dating sims, the JRPG of Picross games.
Okay, I was gonna say, so you increasingly less story every time.
It's so funny. I mean, we're just going to touch on so many things.
Shaving away of RPG mechanics game by game. Miyamoto secretly hates you.
Yeah, we're going to touch on so many things, and the like.
Oh no, James, I'm going to have to say we're not going to touch on anything else anymore because we're at our limit. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I didn't know how much time I had.
But one last thing from you that I got to ask of everyone. That is similarly, I had a transition in there so close when you were talking about the cult stuff, and it was not only games. Tell me about something that's not a game that you would recommend to all the gamers in the audience. Does it have to be about game design or relate to game design at all? Just like something that's not a game for them to try.
I really my favorite album of last year is called Princess Cat Girl by Kashmir Cat. It seems like the evolution of Hatsune Miku and her growing influence in the West. Not a joke, truly not a joke. The album, and I think it's going to be the future of albums, where albums are like 16 to 20 minute long, fully fleshed out ideas. And Hatsune Miku, I guess, is the future of music, in my opinion. We're going to see a lot more of that. So, Princess Cat Girl.
And is that like a person, or is that a Vocaloid?
Say again?
Is that a person producing something, or is that a Vocaloid?
So it's interesting is Kashmir Cat is I guess pretty notable producer. I mean, worked with like Kanye West, etc. But he is they I think they are a very kind of shy individual, and they've created this digital persona similar, right, to like Hatsune Miku. They created a digital avatar and is like put it in live action music videos and everything. But it's sort of like, think of like guest stars on an album coming in, guest rappers, guest singers that are being kind of they're being kind of molded to fit this kind of more high pitched kind of feminine Princess Catgirl, the character. But it's also like wearing traditional garb, I believe. I can't remember Kashmir Cat's origins. Kashmir Cat is Norwegian, so wearing like traditional Norwegian dress. So it's this mix of like culture, technology, and multiple artists is like, how many artists come together to actually make an album together. It's really interesting. Interesting stuff. And again, it's like 16 to 20-minute album. So, that's a shower. Listen to that in the shower.
Well, perfect. And James, good to talk. We're going to go on a break soon. And see
Paper
you
Mario
all.
on the Wii U is great. Oh.
What were you saying?
Paper Mario on the Wii U is great. Oh.
Okay, I've never played it. I don't play video games. We've been over this. Don't bring your goddamn video games onto my podcast. Where I'm going on a break now. 2 minutes, 59 seconds. We'll be right back. Goodbye. Hello, and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. I am still your host, Andrew, and we are here with Esther Alter. Hey, Esther, how you doing?
Hey, I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm having a good time.
Yeah, we saw each other at Boston Fig.
Yes, but for a brief moment, one of the few people who visited my booth.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm old-fashioned. I always want to meet someone before doing the thing.
Yeah. Although I think technically, to pull aside our curtains for a moment, I believe we have met before, just not in a context in which we would have met each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because we were both at Boston Indies, and so we probably did meet each other. I bet we did, and we'd have to really figure it out. But maybe now's not the time.
Yeah, no, we've got time and place for other things. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
Right. So I was an indie developer when I was running Boston Indies, and I made a bunch of stuff afterwards. But now I've got full-time work elsewhere, and I've stopped trying to make money on games.
Yeah.
So I'll say that I've been able to make much weirder stuff.
Right. Honestly, I've stopped trying to make money on games as well. Don't tell the contributors of Indiepocalypse that. But
oh yeah, no, I mean, just making. I mean, I want to make money off the game, but I'm not trying to live off it. I guess is a better way to put it. So that has actually greatly improved my art, I think.
Yeah.
Because I don't give a shit if no one gets it.
Yeah. And there's no if there are, I have not seen there being patrons of the arts for video games that allow you to just make weird shit that you want to make.
I got a grant one time. I did get an art grant. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that is very cool.
Yeah. I got a $12K grant in 2017. That was a really cool thing that happened. That's definitely the most money I've made on games for sure.
Yes, that is well and above. I've had guests on here to say Indiepocalypse is the most money they've ever made on games, and let me tell you something. I don't pay out a lot of money. So
yeah. I don't know. I guess I really liked it.
Yeah, was that? And I was. Oh, sorry.
So that was. I think I sent them No Pineapple Left Behind.
Okay, I was gonna say, was the grant for just a general production of art, or is this for a certain project?
Yeah, totally was. I spent most of that money making a card game called Hexadecimate, which is not on Edge, so you might have missed it.
Yeah.
But it's an actual with paper game.
Yeah. Oh, I'm familiar with the game.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I helped sell it at some Boston Hassles.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah. I was surprised that it was people a surprising number of people. I guess not surprising given like the game and the scene at Boston Hassle.
Yeah, you started with Chris?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a game where I guess for the sake of the audience, it's about millennial like Tumblr witches or Zoomer witches. I guess they could be Zoomers now.
Right.
Yeah. So like Tumblr witches defending themselves against fascist occult magic.
Yeah, and okay, I try to remember. I don't remember what the top of the box said, but it was a very easy and good and quick sell for a punk flea market.
Yeah, I think that's what it says. I think it says like millennial witches versus alt-right.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, so it's a very good, and very efficient sell at a punk flea market.
Yeah, I think since then, like the political landscape, I'm not sure it's gotten worse than what I was anticipating, but it's definitely shifted.
Yes, it's gotten more open.
I'll say, yeah, I think the fascists are more open, and I'll say the witches have a little bit more offensive power. So that's the difference.
The witches are equally more open.
The witches are much more open, so in the game, the witches don't have like you can't ever attack the fascists. You're always defending. And I think that's not quite the case at this point.
No, we are at full blown aggression at this point.
Sure.
Now,
now there's been a pandemic. I actually made like 3 games last year, which was a lot. That's a lot for me, and a bunch of like code repositories.
Right.
So the game that's in Indiepocalypse is not the same game that I was showing at Boston Fig.
Okay, like you've made one in between then and now.
Yeah, the Indiepocalypse thing I made in 2017.
Yeah.
And the one I was showing at Boston Fig I made in December 2020.
Okay, and that game in Indiepocalypse was it was Traitor Nightly, and that was an issue number 10.
Yeah.
And so I got to ask you the question, and that's an important question for you guys. How did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
I heard about it because my husband heard about it and was on the previous show, like last week, I think.
I believe so, yes.
And Julian heard about it, and I'm not sure.
I don't, that was a week ago. I don't remember that at this point.
The whole world was really different, so I don't know.
I have that radio brain where it's like, oh, don't you remember that thing you said on the podcast? I'm like, I record one of these a week in addition to everything else I do. I tend to remember some details about the person, but the conversation, they fly out my brain.
Yeah, so we just have like an ongoing thread of like calls for art. So I'm not sure where that came from.
Yeah. But that's good. That's viral, I think is what they call that.
Within this household, sure.
Yes. That's as viral as I think as Indiepocalypse has ever been. Infected an entire household.
Yeah. Maybe not infected.
No.
Wrong word.
Perhaps not ideal. Has spread to the whole household.
Yeah. Influenced.
Yes.
Influenced?
Yes. I am an influencer.
You are an influencer.
Finally.
Yeah. We were talking about how great this show is and how like it's wild that no one's done this before.
Yeah, I saw a indie game studio based out of the Midwest hosting their own show, and turns out it was just them playing their games, and it was very much a Twitch stream trademark. And I was like, this sucks. What if someone made a show? What if someone made a show that didn't suck?
Like the technological barrier of entry to do this is like pretty low, and like the the just the pragmatic benefit of bringing people together is pretty high. It's like, why isn't anyone just shooting the shit online? Like
right.
This?
Yeah. There's. I think. I mean, we can talk a lot about video games and indie video games, but I think there's a lot of like circumstance and like pomp, not necessarily in that order, around video games.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of like hype machines,
Yeah, a lot of like.
I think. Well, now that the Indiepocalypse happened, and that happened, maybe less so, but pre-Indiepocalypse, it was all about like, press releases.
Right, and it feels like indies are sometimes spending all their effort pretending to be big companies for some reason.
They do. It's a big problem. I really like what the lyric RPG gamers are up to.
Yes,
Because
I had one. I talked about that with someone 4 or 5 episodes ago.
Yeah, they're just making zines, and zines are as old as the written language.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, if they're not trying to like incorporate, like I think that whole scene's gonna just have stronger legs for that.
Yeah. I think like even in games, I think like the Bitsy scene is really strong for that reason.
Yeah, same deal. It's actually a stronger scene than what came before it, I think, because it has like clear antecedents and like it's got a tangible possible goal, because like actually the goal of indie is to like make it big, like only a couple people are ever going to do that.
Yeah.
And the goal of like lyric RPGs is to like have a feeling and cry about it and then make a zine, and
yes.
that's a lot more achievable.
Right. Yeah. Listen, a lot of other art forms are about having feelings and crying about it, and maybe conveying those feelings to other people that they may too cry about it.
Yeah, that's going to be around forever, you know?
Yeah.
That's got extreme longevity.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about whether your crying game is a Metroidvania or not.
No, you don't, and you don't need. And like, if you don't make any money on it, it's not a showstopper.
Yeah, there's too much. I say this whenever people give you a chance to say, but there doesn't need to be like this absurd like feast or famine. Like it has to be the most popular game of all time, or it is nothing. There can be like.
I mean, we don't live in like like luxury communism where like everyone has like video game grants, so that's
right.
not going to happen yet.
Yeah. Right, people still need to, that's why I do this, because I would love it if we could all just give our games away for free, because we're all living and eating,
right,
but we're not.
So we're not only a few of us are going to be able to do that. That's just how it is.
So if I could help give people like a dinner for a night, I'm like, that's something.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all like, we're trying to get something started, whether it's like something large and meaningful. I think there is a space where people make enough money to keep themselves out of extreme poverty, but they don't have to be on like the E3 stage floor. Yeah,
one thing that feels like everything's especially difficult in a pandemic, but one thing that feels like, I guess, like sort of well shaped, like tangibly missing is like skill sharing.
Yeah.
Like it's like actually a lot harder to just be like, hey, your code sucks, let me help you with that.
Right. Because you have to be like streaming your code, and then somebody has to be watching you stream your code.
Right. And like I feel like that was like an important grease that's not in the machine right now.
Yeah. It's a lot harder just like to get your game in front of 10 people in a night and someone go, oh, this feels weird. Yeah, for sure. It's really hard to it's easy to get it's relatively easy to get your friends to play it. Like right.
But much harder to get randos to play it.
Yeah. And sometimes you just need someone to say that's weird and not tell you it's weird or like how they can fix it.
Yeah, a lot of my games have like a lot of like background thought put into them, and if you're my friend, you've probably heard me go off about it. And sometimes it's useful to have someone who doesn't have any context take a look at it and be like, this makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know what these ideas you're conveying to me are.
Right.
You sounds like you're telling me something. It sounds like I'm hearing an in-joke that I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, sometimes that happens.
Well, yeah, so
should I say what I was like showcasing? Is that
Oh,
like...
yeah, go ahead. What were you showcasing?
Yeah, so what I was showing off was a game called A Great Miracle Happened Here.
Yes.
And it's a Jewish revolutionary tabletop role-playing game with dreidels.
Oh, okay.
And it's also, so it's a tabletop game, so you know it's good. And it's also a one-off. It's like 2 hours, so it's not going to waste your time either.
Right. But Dreidel's taking the function of dice.
Yeah. So that was sort of a self-imposed challenge, but you play a game of Dreidel, and like the accumulated tokens determines what move sets are available to you.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't strictly use a Dreidel just as like a proxy for a die. It uses like, I guess you would say, the mechanics of Dreidel.
Yeah, mechanically it's Dreidel, so you could take a 4-sided die and relabel it, but it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. Like it is the Dreidel mechanic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's set in the year like 19XX in like the Empire, and it's the revolution, and you gotta fight the revolution for the revolution, you know.
Well, great. That's sorry. One moment.
What's up?
I'm good. Sorry, I thought I was gonna sneeze for a moment. Had that feeling, and I didn't want to sneeze into the microphone.
Yeah, the worst feeling.
I am good. I've recovered. We are back, and we are ready to go. So, now is this a GM-led game, or is this a GM-less? This is single player. What are we talking?
It's 3 to 6 player, no GM.
Okay.
So I think what did I write? Oh yeah, there's no GM in this game, so you must be prepared to act together as comrades.
Perfect. Now I feel like those, like as you said with lyrical games, like even like single player, GM-less, all these games are sort of like starting to come up, or they're starting to get more attention. One of the two. It's impossible to tell.
Yeah, I love the diary games. That's the coolest shit.
Yeah, it's like impossible to tell if they've always existed or if they're just starting to. I mean, I think it's both. I think they've always existed. Now they're getting more attention, so that more start to exist.
Like instructional poetry is like quite old. But the particular movement may or may not know about what came before it.
Right.
I feel like that's important to note also.
Yeah, sometimes you just have convergent thought.
Yeah, for sure.
So
yeah. So that's it. I was showing that off. You can get that on itch. It's called A Great Miracle Happened Here. It's sold for $3.60, which of course is 18 times 2, or twice the number of life.
Oh, perfect. And do you typically have you done a lot of tabletop design?
I've done a couple. Hexadecimate was, I guess, tabletop. This is the first like RPG I like started and finished end to end.
Okay. And have you started and finished some in the middle?
Yeah, this was like once a much, much bigger project, and I will never finish it because it was too fucking big.
Yeah.
So this is like a splinter of like a really good idea in one of the rough drafts.
I think people need to get more comfortable with like. I've thought a lot about like the concept of like the video game EP, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like just put it.
Actually, I'm not sure what you mean.
You like it's like if a band would put an EP, it's like 4 tracks long.
Yeah.
It's like an idea, so you don't have to mix like an hour or longer album. It's just like, oh, here's an idea. Who wants to
play for 8 hours? What is that?
Yeah, in fact, 8 hours is a short game.
I to sit down at a table and play games for 8 hours. That's never happened to me.
No. I play once a week, and we only play like 3 hours, and that's not 3 hours of complete play. That's also people hanging out.
Yeah, I played this game with some people for like an hour and a half, and like that's where I max out. Basically, I'm pretty much done after that.
Yeah,
I'm good. I played my games. That's like 2 rounds of like spades. I'm good.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of like one shots feel comfortably in that like hour, 2 hour mark.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
it's like multi-campaign 8 hour thing is like, I don't know. Definitely not for me.
So you're saying you don't have like a D&D campaign that exists for 20 years?
No, I played D&D when in my 20s for a little bit, and then I didn't want to play D&D for that many hours that often, so I stopped.
Yeah, no, I have no patience for like, especially like I just don't like to play too many like very like crunchy games because I feel like it requires a lot of like effort on everyone's end to like make it like like an engaging battle of numbers, or else it's just kind of like, well, I'm gonna roll dice and they do good or bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, if I wanted crunch, I'd play a video game. I'm
Right.
not. You know.
Yeah, I feel like there's probably some tables that are great at it, but
yeah, I don't want to do the like. I could fill out like a 1099 whenever I want. You know, like that's. I could just go to the IRS site if that's how I want to get.
If that's your pleasure.
If I'm going to do this, I want the computer to do that part for me.
Yeah, you don't need to spend the 20 minutes functionally rolling dice and slapping each other in the face back and forth for...
I don't want to do taxes. I just want to have fun.
Yeah. So you would say you skew more towards the play. I don't know if that's a true dichotomy of play versus like combat or whatever.
No, I mean, like if it's a computer game, I definitely skew towards like spreadsheets.
Okay.
For sure. I love spreadsheet games, but I don't want to do the math, you know?
Yeah.
That's the part that always like, I don't want to count up victory points. Like, someone tell me what I have.
Right. And you don't want to invite a bunch of friends over and take turns working on a spreadsheet.
No, that sounds terrible. Why would anyone want to do that?
One friend's really good at tables. One friend.
Right. The last time I played like a game with people was Dream Apart. If you know that one.
Not offhand.
Do you know the Belonging Outside Belonging? Like Dream Apart, Dream Askew?
No.
Oh, you should know about this. They're in the same like sphere of influence as the lyric RPG people, and they're sort of a GM-less, dice-less offshoot of Powered by the Apocalypse.
Okay.
And we played Dream Apart, which was like that in a fantastic Jewish shtetl with like demons and shit. And that ruled. That was
No, the thing I like about like indie tabletop, or I guess, indie art in general, is very much it feels like, hey, and this is what I hope gets more common in indie games, where it's like once you dive in indie, it's just like nobody knows what anybody else is talking about. And I think that's a good feeling. Because you're always hearing about something new because nobody is like, oh, I tried this thing. It's like, I have no idea what that is because...
Yeah, for sure.
It's not the main focus of conversation, and I enjoy that feeling.
Yeah, I feel like my perception of the lyric RPG thing is that there's like a slight generational demographic like slant towards like the 20s. I could be wrong. That might just be my perception, but I feel I'm in my 30s now. I feel very good that like people coming up with cool shit that is definitely cooler than what was around when I was there. That makes sense.
Yes, no, I think the second or third issue I got someone submitted like, oh, this person is making good stuff, and they're like, oh, I can't do it because I'm 14. And I was like, buddy. And then it's like, that's good stuff. Too bad you can't work out your payment structure with your dad or whatever. And your dad doesn't want to use his PayPal account.
Right.
Yeah, no, there's people, if you want to look online and see artists just like going, oh, I made this amazing stuff and I'm 12 years old. They're everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
There's like, because there's so, like, the internet gives you access to so many resources so early on.
Yeah, I mean, and like, that this is how the world ideally works, is that like, you can improve on the process.
Right.
Someone else figured it out, right?
Yeah, you don't have to relearn everything constantly.
Right. Although we do that very often in video games. You don't have to.
No, for a moment I saw a thing that I mentioned this in the previous segment. There was someone made for Game Maker like a RPG dialogue box, like, structure or whatever.
Right.
Structure means a thing in programming, I'm aware, and I'm using that word incorrectly in terms of programming. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I thought for a moment, like, I shouldn't buy that. I should just build my own that's already half built. And I thought, no, that's stupid. I'm just going to buy this thing. Because I haven't worked on a game in, like, forever. And, like, this cuts out, like, so much work that this would probably cut out years worth of work for me to do this.
Yeah, I think when I'm coding something, I almost always use my own code because that's just my personal preference.
Yeah.
But like conceptually, if video games do this constantly, where they're like, "Hey, I'm the first person to figure out like moving a group of dudes around a map if you right click." It's like that's an RTS. That's been done before.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like people do this like cyclically a lot.
Yes. Oh, video games has a very short attention span and an even worse memory.
Oh yeah.
Less people.
Like walking sims are going to come back in like 2 years, and people are going to think they invented it for the first time.
Right.
But they don't have to, and it's cool when people like are aware of what came before.
Yeah, I remember making like having a game that had like 4-way movement, like video, like on like a loose grid, like a game like a Zelda would have had.
Oh sure, yeah.
And people are going, "Oh, it's like Binding of Isaac." And I'm like,
wait, what?
I'm like,
what?
Like this movement style has existed for like decades,
right?
And this is like room by room dungeon style.
And that's not to say they need to know that or they're like ignorant. It's just that like someone probably solved the hard parts for you.
Yeah.
Like just take their shit. Why are you trying to work on this?
Right. Even if you like recreate it in your own code or your own design, but you should.
Like,
yeah. So you know what you're doing. Or,
yeah.
Or not. If you're like bad at coding.
Right. Yeah, how do I make a grid that's like equidistant on all sides? Someone's figured this out. It's called hexagons.
Yeah. No need to invent your own hexagon math.
Yeah, nope. This is well understood. You can just take someone's hexagon math.
Could you imagine painting and having to invent new colors every time?
Exactly. Right.
Well, how do I get an aquamarine? Let me test this out.
Before this, you were talking about like flat vector art, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, that flat vector art definitely is cyclical, and it's like
yes.
I feel like it's coming back.
I remember it was like I feel like it's like mid-aughts, like it was a very like companies would use like, oh, you made this in Adobe Illustrator, didn't you?
Yeah, the mid-aughts had it, and then the .io era, circa 2012, had it, and it's like there's a resurgence for sure.
Well, it's drawings with math. It scales infinitely.
Yeah. Everyone wants that hamburger icon, I guess.
Yeah, and sure, does it look kind of flat, and the colors like look very muted sometimes? Oh, sure they do.
Right.
But they scale infinitely.
That's true.
And it looks smooth.
And yeah, you don't need to have like, I don't know. Maybe I feel like you still do need to texture it, but people don't think about that when they start working.
Yeah, sometimes it becomes shorthand for low poly or something.
Sorry, low poly vector art people who are listening to this. I'm not dunking on you.
No. I love low poly stuff like that. Feels like genuinely not that you slapped a blurry filter on your Unity game.
Right. Oh
which
yeah.
I've definitely seen.
Oh yeah, like just blur it all.
Yeah. So it's PS1 now because I blurred it all and it looks pixelated. And you're like, no, I'm an old man. I've played a PS1 game before. I've played one. I've played them recently.
The nostalgia graphics. I don't know. I didn't really expect it to keep advancing chronologically. So like the nostalgia graphics are just like now lagging about 20 years behind where we're at.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll go beyond this. I don't know if like PlayStation 2, Xbox era. I mean, it does have an aesthetic though.
It does. I mean, the PS2 definitely does.
Yeah.
Where like everything is like reasonably high poly, but like there's no shadows yet.
Right. And like everything's kind of sparse still.
Everything's sparse and like demonically lit, like an infernal glow to everything because lighting's not real yet. Eventually we'll have nostalgia art for, I don't know, Twine.
Right. We'll eventually have nostalgia for I forgot the name of it. The thing with RTX that makes light real.
Ray tracing.
Are we ready for 40 years from now? We'll have ray tracing nostalgia.
I mean, that's also weird because I invented that. a while ago. I guess they couldn't do it in real time yet.
Yeah, yeah. Nostalgia for real-time ray tracing inside of our PS1 games.
Right.
But anyway,
Haunted cloud-based gaming, right?
yes. Haunted PS1 people are good people. Honestly, though. They do good stuff. I really dig that aesthetic, and I think there's a lot of good.
Oh yeah, my cloud save was haunted.
Yeah. My cloud computing server is haunted, and it's infecting my game.
Right. There
anyway,
we go.
We are approaching our time, unfortunately. So I got to ask you, what is a thing, no games allowed, that you would suggest to everyone out there?
What I would suggest,
Yeah.
Is that like media wise or like?
Not even media wise, not even another piece of art. This could be like get into making sourdough or get into sleeping under a tree.
You should definitely unionize.
Okay, that is a good idea. Yes.
Yeah, that's my first suggestion. Donate to BLM. And media-wise, I really enjoyed the Traitor Barrel Cormorant series. And if you want a zero magic fantasy book that's like got a lot of lesbian accountants, that's the book. Like hardcore anti-capitalist, really anti-colonialist book about like lesbians and accounting.
And who is that by?
Seth Dickinson.
Seth Dickinson. Okay. Well, thank you. We are going to go on a break, and we will be back with our next guest. Thank you again for talking with me and being on the show.
All right. Thank you.
I'm going. Here's my tradition, but we're going to break. Goodbye. Hello, and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. I am your host, Andrew, and I was just having to have a good time. We're here with our last guest of the evening, but not last segment of the show, Maceo. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I am all pumped up and hyped with energy, and I yelled at everyone a bit too much about a moment ago because I got caught off by how quickly the song was ending. I forgot this was one of the shorter ones. Mm-hmm. So, hey, tell me a little about yourself, Maceo. How you doing?
Yeah, so I am a British Columbia, Canada located indie dev. I make short and surreal games that were never intended to be horror, but the people are enjoying them as horror, and I'm embracing it, honestly. So I made I'm most known for Swallow the Sea and Perfect Vermin, which I released early in 2020 and about mid 2020, and I also released a game jam that did quite well called Pit of Babel. So that's what people likely know me for.
Perfect. And if I had not screwed up and put your songs in the wrong place, I would have played two of the songs I would have played a song from Swallow Sea and Perfect Vermin before your segment, but I always play myself. And
those tracks, Swallow the Sea's soundtrack's done by Publio Delgado, who's the brother of Swallow the Sea's programmer, actually, and he's wickedly talented. And also Daniel Shahipalov, who I even went to high school with, and he is an incredibly talented musician. So, both those guys are great.
And you'll be hearing those in about half an hour.
Yeah.
When I always think, break 3, that means guest 3. It never means guest 3. Break 3 means the everyone's here segment. But anyway, to the important question I got to ask, because you have a lot of questions. We'll get to those.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
Yeah. Turns out when I said I usually have 0 questions and now that I have 19, a lot of them I believe came from your inclusion.
Yeah, I really got out there and I was telling people if you've got weirdo questions to ask about the stuff I've worked on, now's the time. Because I always see I either see our Steam discussions for Perfect Vermin or the YouTube comments on all of the games, and people are asking all sorts of things. And some of those I'm not gonna answer because it's no fun if I give it all away. But I'd like to come out there and clear the air, I suppose. About
sometimes you want to be that she's got two good ones.
Want to be a little mysterious,
right? David Lynch, could you explain this? No.
Yeah.
Says nothing, chuckles.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of Perfect Vermin, that's why you're here, because that was an Indiepocalypse issue 9.
Yeah, that was an Indiepocalypse.
And I got to ask you, how did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
Yeah, so I saw it on the front page of Itch. I think I saw Indiepocalypse 8 listed there. And
Yeah.
yeah, I took a look through it and it seemed like a really interesting idea, but the entry that really sold me on it was Tigotchi by Garage Heathen. Their page was super super high quality and it
Yeah.
really sold me on the whole thing and I was like, yeah, this looks sick. So I think there's actually like 30 minutes left in how long you guys were accepting submissions.
Yeah.
And I sent a message both over text and over Discord to Angad, Perfect Vermin's programmer, and I said like, "Do we want to do this? Do we want to do this?" And he sent like it said like Angad was typing, and I didn't even really wait for the response. I just went submit. There we go.
Well, perfect. I'll say,
And yeah, and we squeaked our way in. So
and I will say, as an aside editor's note, you guys refers to just me. I do this all by myself.
oh yeah,
I try to make sure there's no illusion that I am a company.
yeah.
But no, yeah, that's good because I'm like, wow, this. Sometimes a games come along, I'm like, wow, these rule, and they're like far too good for this. My weird little zine, I say.
All right, too hard on yourself there. You've got something really cool here that you're working on.
Yeah, I get a lot of games that are. I think that's because like there's a mix. I always have to ask people because I get a mix of like exactly the kind of like weird art shit I'm looking for, but also people's games are like, Bob is a square. Help Bob get to the goal by solving physics puzzles.
Yeah, it's always interesting because you see games like that they're kind of those small. You feel like you've seen the game before, and
Yeah.
I always see those and I wonder like, what's the person behind that game kind of like? Like, was this a game that was made out of compromises? Was this like the team couldn't agree, so they kind of ended
Right.
up in a more generic direction, or was this artistically what that person wanted to do? And sometimes that totally works. Like even games like Slay the Spire, I was playing it earlier, and a lot of the themes, a lot of the enemies and stuff, they're designs that I don't think are super they're super unique. I think a lot of those I've seen before, but they've just really done those ideas justice and they've really owned it. So even a lot of
Yeah.
those small games like Let Bob Get to the Spot,
Right.
I feel like sometimes that's just a couple layers of polish away from something really impressive. Like some
Right.
of my early projects, like Devour, which I made in high school. Shout out to anyone who remembers that. Yeah, like basically that suffered from because we were high school students, we had
Yeah.
no idea what we were doing. Is we took Nuclear Throne sort of as a template and we made a very similar game to it. And when we put that out into the world, a lot of people, we got kind of some hate from people saying that like, oh, this is just that, even though we had a lot of mechanics that we put on top of it. But really that was a massive learning experience
Right.
for me. And taking that infrastructure of somebody else's game, like none of that was done from a point where we wanted to steal their stuff, but from a point of like, here is the structure that we want to build on top of because we want to learn how to do this. So I see a lot of those smaller games and I don't know, I'm very fascinated by them.
Right. Yeah. I
So-
like because it's when you're learning, I guess it's like you're making the game and the mechanics more than you are like expressing yourself through the art in a meaningful way. Because I think if I look at them and go, what part of you is in this game? Because I can't see a human being in this game.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. I think it's interesting that sometimes when we look at something, we really like feel like we can't see a person. And I think sometimes when we look at a game and we feel like I can't picture this person, we're almost being more honest than when we look at a game and we go, I feel like I know exactly what this guy is about.
Yeah.
Like there's been a couple of times where I've reached out to game creators because I've played their stuff, I've read their tweets, and I'm like, I know this person. And then I've realized, no, totally wrong. Totally not at all.
Right,
And
because
so,
we don't know, like, you see the game, but sometimes, like, the influences that come from that game, you don't recognize, like, you can't predict those influences.
Yeah. But just people behind the screen, like they talk about like road rage, like when someone's in a car, how they suddenly become very aggressive.
Yeah.
And there's a similar thing that happens on computers where like the person I am in this call right now, or even through my social media, is very different than the person I am. But I feel like there's bits in art that we make that's very, very honest. So I feel
Right.
like you can get a feel for somebody, but to think that you know them, or feel like they haven't put themselves into this, I don't know. It feels like when we're talking about what somebody else is from their art, we're more talking about ourselves and what we see in it more than them.
Yeah.
That was a bit muddled, but I think the
but
point's still there.
I think there's a very good piece of writing that Melos Hantani did on this idea of a live game versus dead game. Of like, they've been doing a lot of writing, I think, trying to like find the language around games that's lacking, and I would recommend people read that in general.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look at that. I'm not
everything
familiar.
everything he's been running. One of the developers from Even the Ocean and Anodyne games.
Oh, Anodyne's on my. I bought Anodyne and Anodyne 2, and I
Yeah.
ran around with them a little bit, but then I discovered Fallout New Vegas, so it's going to take me a while to get back to Anodyne, but they're on my list to check out.
Yeah, he's been doing a lot of like good writing and just trying to like parse games, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I see like this lot of like trying to like figure out the language of like art in games that is somewhat kind of like missing. Like we're missing a lot of vocabulary, I think.
Something I really like about the fact that we're missing a lot of vocabulary, though, is when somebody wants to talk about games, they're typically coming up with that vocabulary themselves. And I think it's when they themselves are deciding on those words to say, you're seeing the decisions they make on how they describe it, and it really shows how they feel about it. Where in something like film, maybe even comics, there's a lot of more nailed down vocabulary about it. And I feel like something's lost there. I feel like the personal words that somebody would use are kind of taken down because there's a correct way to say it. So I actually kind of like right now how it's kind of messy and expressionist of how we talk about it.
Yeah, I think there's a good in between point where it's not all very clinical, but also we have reference points. Because it's great you mentioned comics, because someone did a review for Hylix for one of the issues of Indiepocalypse, and they said, I can't remember the exact...
Was Hylix in Indiepocalypse?
No, but they were like, I do like capsule reviews sometimes if people submit them. And his review of Hylix was like, it's a weird game, but he was talking about how people lack the language like they do in comics. So he's just like, oh, this is a weird game. But if I was talking about comics, I said like Matt Brinkman or somebody like that. Or there's like, there's a language and an understanding, like a shorthand for aesthetics sometimes that is lacking.
Well, I think the greatest thing any artist can seek to achieve is to become an adjective.
Yeah.
And like just before we went on, we were talking a little bit about like Lynch, and people describe so many films as being Lynchian or being like this. And
that's welcome to fucking triggering Andrew on Indiepocalypse Radio and talking about Lynchian. But go on.
Yeah. And like with some of my games, I've seen people say that they're Edmund-esque, like Edmund McMillan of Binding of Isaac and Super Meat Boy. And he's a huge influence to me. And I see that and I kind of think like, yeah, that's the sign that you've made it. The sign that you've made it is when people take your art and they use it to describe other things. Because every game I have ever put out, no matter how much I think, this is totally different, this is totally weird, there will always be a YouTube comment that goes along like this, and it'll say, this game is just like X, but with Y. Like it's this other thing added to it. And
turns out after centuries of art, everything's been done before.
But also, I think it's just how the human brain works. Like, if we don't have a place to kind of ground ourselves and go, oh, I know this because it's kind of like this other thing, we kind of stay away, or it takes longer to get into it. Like, if you ever have a friend try to sell you on something, they'll be like, oh, it's just like this thing you like, but slightly different, even if that's not necessarily the truth of it. Yeah. And I think something that we did really successfully with Swallow the Sea, albeit accidentally, was it's got a lot in common with Agario, which was really big in kind of 2012 and 2014 sort of range, where you move and you consume things. Agario, we talked about a bit during development, but it was never really our like key biggest influence. But I think we kind of took that gameplay that people were familiar with. They didn't really need a tutorial. They didn't need the concept explained to them. But we showed up before like it was peak nostalgia for Agario. And so people were basically able to step in, be familiar with it, and go, oh, it's like Agario with more narrative and more stuff going on. And they could really enjoy it. And I think like all that time you can cut out of the explaining process, the tutorialization. Like in all my games, the tutorial is kind of just 2 screens, and I keep the controls as simple as possible, is really important for getting people invested as fast as possible.
Okay, so now we have got to start getting some questions. Rapid fire.
Sure thing.
Go through as quick as many as we can. I'm going to go the ones that are very specifically addressed to you.
Okay, I'm excited to hear these.
What inspired your creature? This is from Aaron Hurst. What inspired your creature design for the Rotters from Pit of Babel?
The Rotters and Pit of Babel. So for reference, in Pit of Babel, you've got these little cute little red creatures with black eyes and humany teeth called Rotters. And you take them and you dump them into this big skull sort of shaped meat grinder, and it grinds them up into Tetris, like Tetronimo blocks of stone you then use to construct your tower. So a lot of that game took a lot of inspiration from sort of the artwork of H.R. Giger and Zdzisław Beksinski. And the rotters themselves actually really didn't. They're really a separate thing, and because I needed them to really stand out in the environment, so instead I kind of just drew a little blob. I drew little black eyes on them, and I merely made sure they had eyes that were recognizable as being like big and mammalian, but not really being cutesy, kind of like a cute ugly mix. And for the longest time, I wanted to go back and I wanted to take their art and throw it out because I'm like, oh, it's not good enough. But then when people played the game, they really had a reaction to them. They really cared about these guys, even though they're in the process of destroying them. And I went, no, this is simple and this is elegant and this is what we're going to stay with. So the rotters were less inspired by one individual thing, and they were more kind of an evolution of a couple ideas coming in, and then we ended up here.
Well,
and
perfect.
That's the path with a lot of this.
Well, perfect. It is from Ashran. I've noticed that in your games, you add little clues that foreshadow what's really happening in them, like the office plants in Perfect Vermin actually being sections of medical diagrams.
That's a nice notice, yeah.
Do you have a favorite one of these little clues, and are there any more that fans haven't found yet?
Well, there are some that fans haven't found because when you're working on a game, you spend so much time with every individual asset. Like the milk carton in the fridge in Perfect Vermin has a missing persons sign on it, but the missing person sign is of a chair, as if we're kind of alluding towards what the game's about. But probably my two favorite ones, which are also ones I don't see noticed a lot, is on the main menu. Some people notice that something strange happens on the main menu if you hover over the play button, and that's that a lot of the background static will freeze in a spot, and that's actually the outline of the newscaster character in his final stage in the game. So we're showing you where you will end up before you even know what you're looking at. And I think that's an important detail, even if a lot of people ultimately don't notice it. The other tiny detail is, and I've seen no one ever notice this, is when you step out of the elevator at the beginning of Perfect Vermin, if you stop and listen before you finish the tutorial and break the first door, you can hear the sounds of the people in the office going about their day and working. And when you smash the door and you shatter into the game, it is totally dead silence. And I think people feel that like normality, and then there's the contrast to silence, but I don't think they ever pin down this moment exactly.
Right. Well, perfect.
That's a good question.
This is from Lexi Matthews. When did you start making sprite art, and do you have any tips or tricks for anyone looking to improve their sprite art skill?
Do I have any tricks and tips? Well, with all art, it's kind of suffer.
Yeah.
And by suffer, I mean you make a mountain of garbage. I mean, the first sprite I ever did was this tree that like I used way too many colors, and it was kind of bent all over itself and too flat, and it was 32 by 32 for some reason. I just picked that because that sounded right. But the most important thing is, even though I was using like terrible programs back in the day, is you just start and you just keep going and you just keep making more, and you show people your art. You show them your art, and if they tell you that, if somebody says I don't like it, that's actually not a bad thing to say. When somebody says I don't like it, it's people hear that as negative, but it's more a neutral statement. It's more I don't like it, and you have to ask yourself, how do I get somebody to care about it? Am I giving them a reason to give a shit?
Right,
so
right. Yeah.
But yeah, for tips and tricks, the tips and tricks I use might not be the ones for you. And if you take the ones I try to do, I think that might actually be difficult for trying to grow your own style. So I'd say make stuff and don't be afraid to make garbage. Like make a junkyard and then pick the best junk. Like if you have 10 good ideas and 3 great ones, get rid of the 10 good ones, and now you have just great ideas.
Right. So try something until you're comfortable with it, then try something else that you're terrible at.
Yeah, it's good to make art that you're cozy with, to keep yourself going. But yeah, always be trying new things. Don't pick one game and emulate their style. Pick a bunch of games and try to do something similar.
Or not even a game, just try and emulate something. Try to adapt some other piece of art into a pixel art.
If you want people to think you're really big brain, there's a lot of old school painters like Giorgio de Chirico that have simple styles that really have an aesthetic to them. I'm saying simple, which is playing it down a bit, but simplified styles that really have an aesthetic to them. And I think those are really good influences, because when people say, oh, what did you get inspired by? If you name a game that came out like 5 years ago or something, people are that's still kind of in the zeitgeist. People are going to judge you based off that. But if you name some old deep cut stuff, they're going to think you're super smart.
Right, you're so learned. Did you?
Yeah.
From Harris, is there going to be a sequel for Perfect Vermin?
Is there going to be a sequel to Perfect Vermin? I don't know how we'd do a sequel to Perfect Vermin. Angad, the game's...
Asked and answered.
Yeah, Engad, the programmer of the game, and I have talked about wanting to work together. Right now, he's working on a separate project. It's a horror game, and it's looking really interesting. So keep an eye out for that. But after that, we've talked about getting together and doing a game that's sort of like a spiritual successor to Perfect Vermin.
Yeah.
All I want to say is it's probably going to involve a lot of deer, and I'll leave it at that for now.
So this is from Beta Hunter. Will there ever be a sequel to Swallow the Sea?
Oh, will there be a sequel to X Game? That's a good question to be hearing. Will there be a sequel to Swallow the Sea? That is similar to Perfect Vermin. I'm not sure how we would do one.
Perfect. Asked and answered. Anyway, moving on.
I think the next project we have coming out, which is with Nico and I, the programmer of Swallow the Sea, is our biggest game we've worked on yet. I think if you're looking for a sequel for Swallow the Sea, you'll be excited by what you see there.
Yeah, it's like saying, Mr. Lynch, will there be a sequel to Blue Velvet next year?
Yeah, where's Eraserhead 2 when you need it?
I can't wait for Eraserhead 2. Anyway, could you name any inspiration for your uncanny yet charismatic art style choice? I love your taste and would appreciate if you share your influence with us. This is from Tuts.
Yeah, that's a topic I could talk about endlessly, but to keep it short, my biggest influence is probably a mix of Wayne Barlow. If you don't know who Wayne Barlow is, yes, you actually do. He did character design for Hellboy, for Harry Potter, for Pacific Rim, for Avatar. He's all over the place, but most importantly, he made a book called Expedition, and I believe around 1990. And the man is an absolute legend. Like, after this, look up Wayne Barlow and just soak in his beautiful art. And another huge inspiration is Edmund McMillen. I love his stuff, and it's probably what got me turned on to doing indie stuff in the first place. He's the creator of Binding of Isaac and Super Meat Boy, and I love his creepy and cute aesthetic. You could probably see it kind of echoed in my own stuff. But
so I gotta ask, this is from the Ray Romano experience. Who is the game developer you would like to meet the most, and why is it Edmund McMillen?
Yeah, who would I want to meet, and why is it Edmund McMillen?
Yes.
I think it's probably Edmund McMillen, and I'd want. I don't know if I'd want to. I actually don't know if I'd want to meet Edmund McMillen. I'm kind of scared of doing that because I have an imagined version of Edmund. I have this made up version of Edmund in my head that I'm basically like, I want to someday be that, but better. Not saying I will be, and not to diminish Edmund at all, but it's I'd never want to set my goals at be exactly that person. I want to try to be that person and do my own thing. And yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with him, but at the same time, I feel like, hey, my stuff is kind of like inspiration from your stuff and a bunch of other things, and I feel like that'd be kind of the conversation.
And I'm sure he's heard that before.
I mean, he's had a reaction before where people have said like, "Oh, I became indie because of you," and he says it makes him kind of uncomfortable, and I understand that because it's a whole life thing, and it's not to be taken on a whim. So
and like there's this whole other discussion of the idea of like indie games made a lot of people immediately successful and popular. And like how they deal with that immediate success when, typically I would say typically in the arts and the entertainment, there's usually a grind involved.
The thing about Edmund is it really wasn't every overnight success has 10 years behind it.
Exactly,
He made about 25 games before Binding of Isaac and Super Meat Boy, both of which are fantastic, but some of his early games are garbage. Like, they're not good, and that's
they're not even basement collection worthy.
They're not good. Yeah, some of them are in the files of the basement collection, but you can't access them in the basement collection itself. And probably one of the things I dislike the most that I see happening in the indie community is indies being successful or being more successful than they had been, then scrubbing their past and getting rid of all those old and ugly games. And I kind of hate that. And I hate that because it feels like they're trying to not be human. Because we're all going to make shitty games. We're all going to have a bad run of it sometimes. And I think that's important for people studying us.
Yeah, to not like emerge and go, yes, I decided one day that I would make popular video games and I just made them. I didn't do any art beforehand.
Some of my games have things that were cut, that things didn't make it in time, and some of my games I don't think are the best I'll ever do. Some of them I'd even say are kind of bad at parts.
Yeah.
But I would never take those down. I'd never put them away. If I put them up and if I was proud of them once, they're gonna stay there.
Yeah. So next question here from Pedro Arthur: what was the game Perfect Vermin based upon, and what are your inspirations? That's design and visual, which you already kind of answered.
What game was Perfect Vermin based upon?
No, what was the game Perfect Vermin based upon?
Yeah, so I go to the gym every now and then, and when I was coming back, I had this scene in my head, and this scene was a guy coming into an office, he's got a sledgehammer and he's smashing office appliances because that's rad. I like to start all my games with, isn't that just a sick idea? Doesn't that sound cool? Smashing stuff. And then he strikes something. Maybe it's a table, maybe it's a desk. And then instead of that familiar crunch of like a table breaking or something like that, it's like that kind of that fleshy like bone snapping noise, and then like a horrible moan coming from the table. And this got me really excited because I'm like, why is this person here? What are they doing? What are they trying to accomplish? And so I texted Angad, Perfect Vermin's programmer, and I pitched him this scene plus a little bit that I had developed more, and I was like, oh, do you want to make this? Like it's just kind of like smashing stuff, but that's the game, and we'll figure it out from there. And he was like, yeah, sounds rad. And then it was from there. But where the idea came from was probably Videodrome by David Cronenberg.
Okay.
I really love that movie, and I love the scene. I love the TV, the fleshy TV he puts his head into partway through the main character. And I love at the end when he ambiguously kills himself, and when he shoots himself, the TV explodes into meat in front of him. And I saw that and I'm like, that's pretty rad. There's also an artist called I believe it is Cowhoy, but I may be mispronouncing that, who did a run of furniture that was all like flesh, like kind of like chicken meat on the inside. Okay. And I was like, this is so vile, and it's stuck in my memory. And if it's stuck in my memory, it means there's something there.
Yeah. So. Yeah, no, I've got to the next question. I would definitely, at least Perfect Vermin, I would definitely lean more towards Cronenbergian than Lynchian.
Yeah, a lot of people said Lynch when it first came out, and I think that's probably because Chris Dang, the audio designer for that game, he's a huge Lynch fan. And when I was like, we need characters talking weird, he's like, I can tell you're a Lynch fan too. And I was like, I've seen Eraserhead and the first half hour of Lost Highway, but I do need to see the rest of it.
Listen, let's not go into Andrew's David Lynch hole. I think he makes good movies. I don't think any auteur is the be all and end all of art, and you can go well beyond that. I like that. I really like the part in Blue Velvet where he says, "Fuck Heineken, Pabst Blue Ribbon." It's very good. They're good movies.
I think I watched a 2-hour retrospective on his Dune series without having seen Dune, though. So
it's like, listen, there's some good parts in that movie, like the part where Patrick Stewart is like, the worm sound is good today or whatever. But it's like not great. Have you ever seen the documentary for Jodorowsky's Doom?
I haven't seen it, but I've seen there's a YouTuber who's also from BC called Your Movie Sucks, and he talks about Jodorowsky a lot.
Yeah.
And so I've mostly seen it through him talking about it, but I've seen some of the concept art and it looked fantastic. I believe Giger was doing concept art for that before the project.
Yeah, I think because a lot of the people ended up going over to Alien from Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yeah.
And but also Mobius did a lot of the art on that.
Mobius's art is beautiful. That's a big inspiration. That's a big inspiration for the next project coming. So keep an eye out for that.
I have used I have used as a shorthand to describe a city, like the opening pages of the Incal, where he is falling down through the city, and I use that as a shorthand of a makeshift kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Cobbled together city. That is my go-to visual for that.
Yeah, I need to dive deeper into a lot of Mobius's stuff. I haven't taken a look into the Inkle, I think you said it was called.
Yeah, that was the work of Jodorowsky.
But sometimes when I'm taking influence from an artist for the first time, I kind of stay away from hearing their life story or engaging deeply with their stuff, because that way I can take kind of the breadth of their aesthetics and kind of give my own story to it. And then when I ultimately look at theirs, I can go, oh, wow, what I concocted was totally different. And that means it's mine. So...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of his stuff, I think, has been I think there was a gulf for a long time, which would probably be the gulf in which we were growing up, where his stuff was extremely expensive because it had been out of print for so long. And a lot of it's starting to come back into print now.
A lot of artists that I'm very interested in have a lot of out of print stuff, and it hurts my soul. I have 2 of 3 of Dougal Dixian's his speculative biology books. And I don't want to go on too long of a nerdy tangent about that, but the third one was never reprinted, and so it's impossible to find, and it makes me sad.
Yeah, no, I tell myself, I publicly say that I am, for instance, I am teaching myself Japanese so that I can better, contact with that entire world of indie developers. but between you and me and everyone else, and just you and me, I'm really just doing it because I love comics, and I think there's a world of indie comics
That's fair.
is unexplored that is never going to get published over in the U.S., even
Yeah.
like fan translated.
Mhm.
And I think is an interesting scene that I think the publishing arms misrepresent what comes with is produced in that country. I'm sure they do weird indie shit too. Buy buy books from Glacier Bay Press. Thank you. That's my plug for my favorite small press at the moment.
Did we conquer all the questions?
We're so close. We're so close.
We're so close.
Was there a
The end is
particular
nigh.
inspiration behind the look of the office space in Perfect Vermin?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
There was. Oh,
I screwed up. I forgot. I deleted that question before saying it was from. I'm so sorry. I think it began with an A.
yeah.
Forgiveness
Should
to that
I
person.
just go ahead with the question you did?
Go
ask
ahead
me
with the
then?
question. I'm saying to that person, you're out there. I forgot to say your name.
You're out there. We love you. We're thinking of you. The office space in Perfect Vermin. So I didn't work. I went to Vancouver Film School before this year of myself doing indie stuff. And it's a grind there. They work you really hard. Some people say they work you to the bone, and then later you'll meet people that are near the end of the program because it's a 1-year intensive, and they say, no, they don't work you to the bone. They work you to the marrow. So near the end of it, you end up in this sort of love-hate relationship with that space. And Engad, who I worked with, also went there, and Nico, for that matter. And I remember near the end of the year, we were both on our final projects, mine being Robo Rapture and Engad's being one called Cyber Adrenaline. And I sat down next to him, and we were both super burnt out. And I was like, if you had like a fire axe and like half an hour where time was frozen, how much destruction would you cause? Or could you cause, hypothetically?
Yeah.
And it was kind of like destroying the environment with words, because realistically, we're not going to do anything. We're nerdy guys.
Yeah.
But even the elevator in Perfect Vermin is really inspired by the elevator in that building. There's I think it's the left-hand side. I'm dyslexic, so left and right is a matter of opinion. On the left-hand side of the elevator in Perfect Vermin, there's this little grainy picture, and a lot of people are confused by that, but I included it because at Vancouver Film School, they had for a while a grainy picture of like the floor we were working on before it was turned into like a school space
Okay.
there. And I kind of hated that picture. I don't know why. It really agitated me. So I felt like it was important to include in the elevator in Perfect Vermin. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That was the last question, and I will say,
Yeah.
as someone who spent their schooling, 3 years of school in a concrete hell space, yeah, I can understand having a weird, like, detachment of a singular place.
yeah, it's a weird relationship. So Vancouver Film School is on East Hastings, which is a part of Vancouver, the city it's in, that has like a really, really bad homelessness problem, like probably the worst in all of Canada. And so you'd basically get off the train to walk to the school, and you'd basically walk through what I'd call a hellscape. Like I saw some things I won't ever unsee on the way to there, and then you go to this building, and even though the building is so nice by comparison, you just end up with such a weird feeling day in and day out. And I could really describe a lot of it as frustration.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when they first come to play Perfect Vermin, it's because they're like, oh, this sounds like the perfect like frustration getting out game. And if that's what they want out of it at first, I think that's important. I think some people have said Perfect Vermin has a twist in it, but I think the reason I don't really consider it to be a twist is because we show people you're going to smash furniture, you're going to trash an office, and it's going to be rad.
Yeah.
And that's not a lie. The entire game never strays from that point, save for maybe the final moments. But the game it gives you all the office smashing you want, and it never really steps back and goes, oh, you thought you were going to get this, but you're actually going to get this instead. Even when our narrative beats go in a different direction,
Yeah.
we still make sure you can trash everything. Like Engad and I spent like 2 days when we were working on the chairs, because like they're the first prop, making sure in Unreal we were like putting physics on them in different directions so they would smash more satisfyingly. Like people use horror as their first word to describe that, but satisfying was our first word. So
Yeah, it is as someone who played it, because of course I have to play all these games. I wouldn't just do it by looks alone. That would be ridiculous. Yes, is a good satisfaction of smashing. And now all that question, our question, Palooza have brought us to the end of our segment.
Oh no,
So,
the end has come.
I've got to ask you, you've said a lot so far, but what is a non-game you would recommend to the gamers in the audience that they should, something that's not a game to get into?
That's a tricky one because I kind of have plugged those things already talking about Wayne Barlow and Bixinski. What would I recommend?
Be it a piece of art, be it a hobby.
Honestly, I'd recommend sending emails. I'd recommend sending emails to people out there that are successful, like not huge, like superstar successful, but moderately successful. You can reach out and you can contact them and you can say hi and you can say hello. And sometimes you won't meet the person that you're expecting them to be, and you won't see that. But I think that's almost more important, and realizing that your worldview is so shaped for yourself, because we kind of live on our own little island of how we perceive the world. And I think puncturing that bubble every now and then, or even on top of that, like if there's a person in your life that's around, maybe they're a cousin, maybe they're a coworker or something that you don't find yourself talking to a lot, and you don't have a good reason, maybe you do have a good reason, start a conversation with them. It's amazing. People in video games will go every single little extra mile to find every collectible, every little thing. You see YouTube videos like this is so satisfying, but in their own lives, there's so much they'll skip over. Like one of my fondest memories is I was feeling depressed one day, so I went on a hike just way out into the woods, and I met two old men painting, and I chatted with them for about 2 hours, and that was a super influential experience. And that only was something I discovered not because I decided to wander, but because I decided to actually engage with the world around me. So talk to people.
Exactly. Sometimes you'll go out to see a show in Martha's Vineyard. You'll get stranded on the vineyard and spend the night with a local theater company.
Yeah. This is what I'd throw out. Watch garbage media. Watch terrible films, and then analyze them and ask yourself why they don't work. Because often that's a more useful way to figure out what's wrong with your own stuff than just looking at the people who did it right. Sometimes something really obvious will be done wrong, and you'll realize, oh my god, it wasn't actually that obvious. So that's my other thing.
It's that old diagram of the planes, the warplanes, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Trash Night Video happens. I think it happens every last Tuesday of the month here on Twitch.tv, and they perfectly curated. But with that, we are going to our last break, and then everyone will be back. Thank you for having. Not thank you for having me. I had you. I'm gonna go to break now. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hello, and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. We're all here now, hanging out.
Hello,
everyone.
Hello.
This is our grand finale.
We live.
This is the part where I go, there's no way to visually distinguish anyone, but also let's just hope our voices work well enough, and they always do.
Yeah.
So this is, for the first time, I always say this is disorganized, but the first time this is a very organized final segment.
Hell yeah.
We have a lot of questions for everybody.
Wait, how on this thing?
Everyone should organize.
Can I ask you guys an icebreaker question before we dive into these?
Yes.
So are you guys all familiar with the hedonist's trolley, where you've got the trolley going down the track and it's either going to hit some people on either side?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. All right, so I've got one for you guys, and I really want to hear your thoughts on this. All right, so you've got the lever that'll switch the track, so it's going to hit one or the other. Down the one track, there are 3 people. You know nothing about these people. They are totally covered, but they're squirming. They're real squirming. You know they're people. Yes. And on the other track, there are 3 people, just totally equal to the people on the other side. You know nothing about them. You've never met these people. But after them on the track, there is a sick loop-de-loo, like a roller coaster circle sort of spin thing. All right, now it's currently going to hit the 3 people with no sick loop-de-loo. And the loop-de-loo will, in fact, be rad as hell. So you have the lever. It's entirely up to you, your morality.
Well, clearly you do it with the one without the loop-de-loop, because a trolley's not really equipped to go over a loop, so that would crash the trolley as well.
It will do the loop, and it will be sick as hell.
Huh.
It is physically required to be sick as hell for this hypothetical to function, so it will be.
Because I have no idea who's on board the trolley, and if I'm killing 3 people, I don't want to make anyone else motion sick in addition, so I would just let it be.
What about you, James?
That was me.
All right. Wait.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
the
He may
trolley
have been hit by
problem
the
is
trolley. I can't quite hear him. Go ahead.
the trolley problem is just like just a failure of civic infrastructure. Like,
Yeah.
who the fuck set this up in the first place? I feel like if I'm at the point where I got a hit, some people or some other people are like, fuck it, I'm not going to think about it too hard.
Right. Where's
Just flip the lever back and forth to keep him guessing.
Oh, I don't know. I'm just like gonna throw my hands up at that point. Like,
yeah?
no, who built this thing? Why is it like this?
Or where's this mustachioed? Who's the mustachioed twirler who's out there putting these people on the train
We're
tracks?
in the middle of like infrastructure collapse across the country. So like, what the fuck?
Well, perfect. Now that we've cracked our ice wide open, let's get into these questions. So this is from the Aviator, and they're asking, "What is your favorite video game growing up?"
It's a good one. Who wants to go first?
Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening.
Oh god, that was so good.
The first game I ever bought with my own money. Am I right? So it was all the sweeter.
Yes.
Nice tight package, nice little world. It was all a dream. Spoilers.
Oh, damn it! Well, I got to throw away my copy now.
I'm gonna have to go with the original Pikmin. I never played it on the GameCube. I played it on my Wii, but it was a pretty monumental game for me. I love that little world. I love those little creatures. And shout out to Pikmin 2 on top of that for introducing me to botched but taxonomy nonetheless. So,
All right.
what about you, Andrew? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll go last. I'm polite.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I played a lot of Civilization 2 as a kid. That was probably my favorite.
Oh, this is not my favorite, but I will say that one night I rented Civilization on PlayStation and I played it. I didn't go to sleep.
I played that. I loved Alpha Centauri and
Centauri
64. But Alpha Centauri is probably the only one. Well, actually, I love Star Fox still. Alpha Centauri still holds up.
My favorite, I'm gonna say, I'm assuming it's my favorite because it's the most consistent, and I've played it a long time. I mentioned earlier in the show, it is Shadowrun on the Sega Genesis. It is.
Yeah.
I adore that game endlessly. It blew my mind as a child that such a thing could exist, and it's open ended. And play Shadowrun on the Genesis. I love it. This is from Tyler Malkin. What is the best part about being an indie developer?
What is the best part about being an indie developer? It's so hard to encapsulate.
I'm gonna need you to encapsulate it for me, Maceo. Keep it in a capsule.
Yeah, being able to make what you want to make, really, even though there's sacrifices, being able to bring at least part of those crazy ideas in your head into the world, that's the best part, but that's not the only part, so.
Well, I asked for the best part, and that's what we got. Next. Person, that is.
I guess I can add on to that. We talked about this a little bit before the show, but it's the fact that how people don't know, people not knowing how indie games or games are made is not always a bad thing. It's a great thing where you can make what you want, but also just completely surprise people, completely just knock people on their asses because they don't know anything about making a game, so you can add something that they've literally, never seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ambivalent about the indie scene, as I think we talked about, and I am very skeptical that indie represents a stable semantic category. Sorry, everyone, I'm going to be pedantic. It's pedantic o'clock.
Yes.
And I mean, like, what's the best part about being an artist, though, is like.
I think that's secretly the question.
That's secretly the question, and like. Equal parts like self-expression, which may be like too broad, but for me, I love like hearing back from people that I've made something meaningful.
Yeah.
Like the validation of that, and like hearing that like I've like influenced other people's work is like the best.
Yeah, for me, it is very much like taking these ideas I have within me and trying to express them to other people somehow. And, like, hopefully, like you said, it connects with people.
Can I change mine to if anyone cosplays a character from your thing? Because that's pretty sick too.
Whoa, have you ever had that?
I have actually,
Wow.
which is nice.
Just wait till you get a full group in 23 when lockdown opens back up or ends or closes. Whatever lockdown does, that's in our favor. This is from Claude, and they ask, who inspires you creatively the most?
You, Andrew. No,
Oh shit! Thank you.
This is,
Thank you. I'm so blessed at this moment.
Is this so cliche as to say like my own team? Is that so
That is
cliche
very
to
cliche.
say?
It's kind of rad,
I'm gonna
though.
out cliche
I'm
you.
sure they appreciate it.
Oh,
I'm gonna out cliche you. So like dive into that. Go all in.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, interesting, right? I had mentioned before the call, and I won't spoil it here, but I'm working on a new game, and I
what?
think
How unheard of.
no, new game, a world exclusive.
And
But,
let's just say game developer to continue making games.
but I made a little internal pitch doc to get kind of team members on board, and I think something I really tried to stress. Well, first of all, I always try to stress, why is this a game? Because you can go make a movie, you go write a book, but why are we going to make a game? But I tried to stress that this is something that I thought that only my team can do, and certainly the game that I released last, Puzzle Dating Sim, is only something that my team could have done in the way we did it. And it's nice to have a team where everybody's kind of on the same skill level in different ways and learning from each other in different ways. So, shouts out to my team.
Oh, perfect. That was beautiful and saccharine. Who's next?
I mean, I kind
Esther?
of covered this question during my part, so
Yeah.
I'll step back now. Wayne
see the
Barlow,
floor.
Edmund McMillan, done.
Esther, you say you're going to add to the saccharineness to it.
Oh yeah, definitely my husband. We're sorry.
No, listen.
No, we're both artists. We read each other's first drafts. For sure, the biggest influence.
Well, that is sweet and saccharine, and like you said, beautifully more cliche. I personally am just like, I like adapting things. I like taking ideas and conveying them into like a different medium. So just like it's everything that I see, and I think, well, how does this work? How can I abstract this into feeling something different? So everything, I guess.
Wow.
Also your husband as well, so their husband as well. There's also an inspiration.
Yes, everything.
Technically.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it is the album 69 Love Songs. Sometimes it is a cat bringing a dead bird to a doorstep.
Yeah.
These are feelings in life that I'm trying to like. How do I adapt these
I choose
feelings?
the dead bird as my creative influence in that equation. That you can have the cat. I'll take the bird.
Ah, yes. I will always take the cat.
Yeah.
The provider of goods.
Cat's the provider of goods worldwide.
He's like, I've got to pay rent. I understand this capitalist society we pay in, and I want to contribute to it, the cat says. This is from Bernie. Do you listen to music while you work? And if so, what kind of music do you like to listen to?
I don't. I did. And like, I haven't listened to music this year. It's been kind of weird. That's been a weird pandemic reaction in my brain. I've just like not been doing that. It doesn't even feel good. I miss listening to music.
Yeah.
But I did actually listen to a lot of video game soundtracks because they're sort of like meant to be in the background.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah, I agree with you completely.
they're like overwrought and long. So I don't need to like tell YouTube to do something else.
Yeah, I also listen to a lot of video game soundtracks. My goal for this year is to, my New Year's resolution, which I've already achieved, is fix up my vinyl record player and start putting on some records. And I have some nice game soundtracks on vinyl. I listen to a lot of game soundtracks as well when I work, and hip hop, a lot of hip hop. lot of lyrical stuff, except for when I'm writing. When I'm writing, I literally like turn off all the lights in the room, cover my head with a hoodie, and only have the screen, and only write in complete darkness and silence.
No, see,
So,
that's one of the weird things, which is the opposite of me, where I have difficulty often listening to hip hop while I do like work that requires writing because it's too close to podcasts, it's too close to like people speaking that it like messes with my brain.
yeah, I went to a coffee shop to write once, and I hate it. I hate writing with people making noise and talking.
For me, it's kind of a melting pot of constantly changing all over the place. But if there was any constants in there, it's got to be it's kind of cliche, but Death Grips, Neutral Milk Hotel, big fan of 100 Gex. Yeah, and then just a lot of the stuff that my parents kind of listened to when I was growing up. A lot of nostalgia for that, so it's easy to get into kind of a pretty interesting headspace while working. But a lot of times I'll just let YouTube wander and show me whatever it wants me to hear.
Can I actually
I
plug?
don't hear the same goddamn Yiddish song. I don't know. It's a good song, but it's like there's more than one song in the world.
Can I attach a question to that original question? Is if you guys are working on a project, have you ever made like playlists for a project that you listen along to?
Yes.
Never intentionally.
I don't always listen along to it, but I definitely mood board with music. I've got like, this is what the game's got to feel, or the project's got to feel like.
Gotcha. I just started doing that, so have me back on the show in 3 years, and we'll see if
Okay.
if I still do that.
And I guess, unsurprisingly, as someone who secretly turns this into a radio show, I listen to a lot of music, and basically my process is I go to Bandcamp and I just keep adding new music and I just listen to it alphabetically.
I love that.
And I just
That's
play,
incredibly organized, actually.
and I just like load it all up and I just start listening. And I'm like, okay, so this is like electronic Afrobeat. Yes. Okay. Well, this is just like folk music. All right. And I just like, I do a lot of genre whiplash, but I'm all into it. I really like sometimes like drone and ambient, and I just got this Azusa Plane CD just got delivered to my house the other day, and that is one of my Indiepocalypse picks, which I don't know. Also, if you're mentioning Neutral Milk Hotel, I really like Jordan Mason and the Horse Museum. Divorce Lawyer, I Shave My Head. It's the only kind of band that's giving me that kind of like vibe of sad person singing over guitar and wailing in their singing saws.
I need to look those ones up and write that
I
down.
really like that. Divorce Lawyer, I Shave My Head. Exceptional album. I've been playing it constantly on this show. Just got the vinyl recently too. I also have a couple video game vinyls as well, to be that kind of person. I really like the Lisa soundtrack.
The Lisa soundtrack is fantastic. I listen to that excessively.
I'm a big fan of that.
What's the name? I don't even
Lisa.
know this.
Lisa the Painful RPG.
Oh,
Lisa, Lisa. Yeah, it's on my list. I've heard the soundtrack's good. I've not heard the soundtrack just yet, but it's one of those things where it's like with Undertale. I didn't want to go listen to it to death before I got a chance to play it and hear what it was like in the game.
yeah. My favorite soundtrack to work to for sure is Off-World Trading Company, which is like it's a spreadsheet game but with Mars, and the whole thing is like surreal Phillips glass, but with like brass.
Okay.
It's very rhythmic and it's very repetitive, and that puts me in a good spot for like coding, which is a lot of what I do.
I'm appending my music choice. My music choice is I just listen to that Philip Glass Toad tweet on repeat forever.
Sure.
For writing, I always come back to the World of Goo soundtrack, especially the later, more sad stuff. That soundtrack is amazing, and it is an absolute shame it didn't win any awards.
Did awards exist?
There were some around the time, from what I understand, but didn't go to it.
I guess I listened to, if we're gonna do specifics, I listened to the Drakengard 1 soundtrack PS2 more than I really should because at some point did have my roommate say I was really worried about you because Dragon Guard 1 is just like cut up, impossibly looping sample. Well, they fully recorded versions of like the Rite of Spring and different classical music with Square Enix's budget, and then they cut and sampled it and distorted it to hell, so it sounds like a waking nightmare. But if you get in the right mood, it's very nice and rhythmic and cyclical. But I literally thought my PS2 disc was scratched when I was playing the game. That's how odd the music can sound.
Perfect.
So
perfect. And this is
such a madness.
on to the next question. Jedi Templar asks, "What is your favorite animal and a fact about it?"
Favorite animal and a fact about it. Favorite's got to be the manatee. The manatee is objectively the best animal.
That's
Fun.
probably true.
It's a what?
That's true. You're probably right.
That is true. Yep. It's been decided. The Indiepocalypse animal is now the manatee. Fun fact about manatees is their nipples are on their elbows. It's a very strange placement. And they have the West Indian manatee. It has fingernails but no hands. So that's neat.
So flipper nails.
Where's the
Yeah, I suppose. Flipper nails that like have a nipple halfway down.
Wait,
I mean, this is really peak performance of an animal here.
I don't like to look at it. Though.
It sounds like a recent development. I can't believe I went through elementary and middle school without ever hearing about like a nipple-elbowed creature. I feel like that would have been like the weenus thing. I feel like every kid would have been talking about that constantly, right?
Oh yeah, maybe they didn't know about it. I don't know.
It's nature's best kept secret.
Yeah. Why do these baby manatees keep suckling on elbows? What could it be?
I can't wait for some masked animal to reveal to us all of nature's secrets.
Yeah.
Ankle biters, elbow suckers. I don't really I don't dislike them, but I just don't personally care for animals too much. I don't have like an interesting answer that I can jump to.
No, that's fine.
Interesting take as an animal, but I get it.
Certainly man is no, I mean, you know, man is my favorite animal. And the interesting things were all said during this podcast, am I right?
Oh, beautiful save. Nice recovery.
Yeah. I guess giant squid. They like we don't know fuck all about them. They'll you know, we could poison the ocean. It probably wouldn't matter to them. They live too far down. I love that. They should just lead their own lives.
What about colossal squid?
We know even less about them. They're great.
But does that mean you like them more?
Yeah,
They're
probably.
mysterious. They're like a cloaked figure that has answers, but you just out of reach.
Yeah, you called me out. I'll go with that. Colossal
Go
squid.
with colossal squid.
Yeah.
Everyone will convert to the colossal squid in time. It is happening.
Yeah, sure. No, they're like we just don't know shit about them. And like, yeah.
He's already here.
What about the monumental squid? No one knows anything about that one.
Is that like a D&D class? I don't know.
I don't know. No one knows anything about that one.
We know knows. Yeah.
The great earth squid that tickles the center of the earth.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just amend it then. I'm just gonna play the safe card and be like the weird sea monsters, like
the
fucking
deepest
weird
squid
that like we don't know anything about. Once in a while, they'll devour a boat, and one person will come back and be like, "That's something got
big
the
squid."
Boat. I don't know what it was. That's all we know about it. Sea monsters are like obviously real, and I love all of them.
I guess I'm far more interested in the alien, the extraterrestrial animals that have probably already made contact with humanity, but our brains just cannot comprehend their existence at all.
Oh, like they exist on a spectrum that we can't visually see?
Yeah, but they don't recognize us either, so it's totally fine.
I am a fan of just like corvids personally. And I occasionally think in like times like I could be a person who owns a lot of birds, like smart birds, like ravens and crows.
Not those dumb birds.
No,
Keep them out of there.
Blanket over them. They think it's nighttime. Those fools.
At one point, a homing pigeon landed at our house and was staying there, like it was taking a break or something. And I was like, what if I owned pigeons? I feel like I could own pigeons.
That's cool. Yeah.
Like I don't know. I like birds.
What if you were offered like 14 kiwi birds?
Can they fly?
No, they can't fly.
I'm not interested. Do they hop along the
No,
ground?
only
They
flying
always
birds.
say,
I love the way birds hop along the ground. When I realized that birds hop because why would they need to walk? It kind of like opened my worldview.
yeah, what are those desert owls? Like run full speed along the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I
no
used to
roadrunners here.
a like big extended family of crows that were like very chatty. They had a lot to talk about, and I started thinking about how cool it'd be to make friends with the crows because you can do that. They understand friends and enemies. But then I realized there'd be a really good chance that like they'd attack my enemies, and I don't actually want that.
Yes.
Or they would attack what they perceive as my enemies, forever. Because like they can teach hate, which is weird. Like they'll pass along stories of like this person sucks to their offspring and their offspring's offspring.
Wow.
Also,
So,
if they like you, they'll do that. So
so
like
are you saying crows are nature's cancel culture?
crows will be your friend forever if you like you offer them treats or whatever. But like if you like throw rocks at their nest, like your grandchildren are going to suffer.
Yeah, they will never forget.
That's like well documented. They can in fact pass along memory of hate.
The colorful squid is far more chill than these crows.
I also get a lot of turkeys.
I can't say crows are my favorite animal, but I do respect them a lot.
I also get a lot of turkeys sometimes, and I think they're cool. They can fly a lot better than I thought they could.
Are you guys familiar with the name, the technical name for a group of crows?
A murder?
It's the iMessage group chat of crows.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. I like owls. I'm sorry. I don't want to sound evil.
Well, they have parliaments.
Owls. They're fine.
Owls aren't evil. They're just surprisingly dumb.
I don't want to sound evil by saying that I don't like animals. I like owls. We'll go with owls.
So we have a question here. This was for Maceo, but this is, I think, a nice broad one. This is from Alan. A lot of people have to deal with burnout, and it can be really hard to get around sometimes. I was wondering what methods you take to deal with burnout.
Don't do it.
I personally like to drive on the opposite side of the lane. That way you're always getting turbo, and you don't have to ever worry about it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Definitely never hit a situation of burnout if you can help it. Your innate value has nothing to do with your productivity. And the moment you start thinking that, you should like stop working.
Yeah, that's why I say seriously, just sometimes you just gotta stop.
Just stop. Like if you start thinking like if I like don't like work on this a certain amount of time or to a certain extent, like I'm a bad person.
Right.
Like you're gonna burn yourself out like in a month. Like you have to stop at that point.
Like if I can't get this out by this year, I'll be a failure. He's like, no.
Yeah, then just stop working and go the fuck outside with a mask on and like reassess your life. That's how you avoid burnout.
I currently have no well-documented plans on how to avoid burnout and will likely crash into it. That being said, the objective is to make cool shit until that happens and then figure out how to manage it and then repeat however I managed it in the future.
Yeah, I think as someone who makes who's made like a way heftier game than I had originally planned, it's leaving it open enough and leaving enough work in different areas. I mean, I say work, but leaving enough interesting parts of the project open so that you can flip between them. So, like I mentioned, I started doing pixel art for the first time, and then I switched over to writing, and then I switched to designing puzzles and not doing the art, and then switching over to the kind of put on some music, narrative design, kind of branching path kind of work. I think, ultimately enjoying, even if you do enjoy the work, obviously burn out as if you're not enjoying any of it, but still enjoying it. It's always good to just purposefully put stuff away and save it for a time when you need I think your brain space.
I think my other strategy for burnout is like, if you do burn out, just like accept that and move on, Like I burned out on making large scale indie games and like, I don't make them anymore, and I don't think about it too hard. I just do other stuff now.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot that you can do in life. Just try.
Yeah,
something different.
if you do burn out, just like, I don't know, don't beat yourself up about it. And this is assuming this is not work burnout, right? This is assuming that like you're in
Right.
control of your schedule and your
this is
output.
like
In which case,
independent
just
work.
like do something else.
Perfect. This is from Amit. It said, "What is your favorite game to play right now?"
Enjoying a video game? No,
Enjoying a video game? Yeah, I have to.
Listen, mine is easy. I talk about a lot. I play Magic the Gathering Arena a lot. I like it. I like Magic.
Yeah, that's a spreadsheet game. Magic the
It-
Gathering's a spreadsheet game for
It's
sure.
such. I love that. It's just such a spreadsheet game. It's such like here's a
Magic
weird
the
mechanic.
Gathering is like, to me, like indistinguishable from like IRS tax forms.
It's so beautiful. It's like I have this. I look at a card and go, "How can I make a deck where this card can win the game?" And sometimes it doesn't. It's like design problems. The game.
Hexadecimate is like deliberately anti-Magic the Gathering. It's like the antithesis. It's like, I hate it so much. What if I mechanically tried the opposite? That's not to say you're wrong. I'm just
No.
shooting the shit with you.
No, yeah, no, I don't play. Listen, have gone. I'm well at the point in my life where not everyone has to like the same things.
Right.
And if you think everyone has to like the same things, buddy,
Go
you live in a
outside.
tough life. You live in a tough life there. God, could you imagine if your whole life was just the things you liked and somebody didn't like them? What?
Can.
And like you took that as a slander against your personal character. If I didn't like whatever shitty movie you like.
Hey, I'm being unreasonably defensive about what you guys just said because
Yeah.
something that I really I would now use the word. I get to a point where I'm making a lot of stuff, making game stuff. So to still have this kind of joy, I'm using the word savor, to really savor an experience. I really think about last year. I played a game called The Somnium Files, or AI The Somnium Files, or
yes.
I as in EYE The Somnium Files, because it's a pun on all three. Really amazing adventure game from a Japanese creator.
That's of like the 999 legacy, correct?
Yeah, Kotaro Uchikoshi, or Uchikoshi Kotaro, depending on who say it. Yeah, the latest game from the, or I guess now not the latest game, but that's complicated, from the 999 Zero Escape developer. Just
yes,
really
that is-
amazing.
I forget what the
Say again?
umbrella term was. It was Zero Escape.
Yeah, the Zero Escape series. Just a really amazing. It's just one of those stories. I think people really love those really tight, well-knit stories where you start with this cast of characters, everyone's separate, and then by the end they're all so intrinsically tied together. And then there's a character who's like a YouTuber who plays the in-world version of Minecraft called Shovel Forge. And at the end, because she's a YouTuber, she has her own theme song. And at the end, a cast comes out and sings and performs the theme song together in a big dance number. It can't get any better than that.
Yeah, the game I'm making my way through right now is Fallout 3 in probably the strangest way possible. I've modded the entire main campaign of Fallout 3 into Fallout New Vegas's engine. And so I'm playing through Fallout 3, but with the systems of New Vegas, which is bizarre, but very enjoyable. So having a lot of fun with that.
I'm not playing a game right now I'm really into. I was playing Crusader Kings 3, and it's pretty good, but it's not like wowing me. It's got some like very weird. Well, it's not weird. There's just like the writing gets sparser as you leave Europe.
Yeah.
So that's always been, okay. I've kind of played this before at this point. I played a lot of Crusader Kings 2. So I don't know. I'm not playing anything I love right now. I think my game of the year was BattleTech, the 2018 PC game, and like it's just like it's mechanically like airtight. It's so fucking good. Also, spreadsheet game. That one does the math for you.
Yeah.
I've never done BattleTech tabletop. Too much math.
I would say the last non living card game thing that I was playing was one of these days I'm going to actually meaningfully sit down and play through the rest of Vagrant Story, which I've been playing through, which I really enjoy.
What story?
Vagrant Story.
That's on my list of games to play. However, it's pretty far down on the bottom. I really loved the director of Vagrant Story did a 3DS download only game called Crimson Shroud, which is it's an RPG, but because it was a very low budget game, it's masquerading as an actual tabletop game where you're using the touchscreen to roll dice. It's amazingly tight. It was really enjoyable. That director's something else.
That Final Fantasy Tactics went into my other game I grew up with that it was my favorite game ever, and that blew my mind wide open. But I like their work, and I think Vagrant Story is. If we also play Vagrant Story, if you wanted cool PS1 aesthetics, and I want to talk eventually about how I've mentioned camera work in video games is really bad a lot of the time. So it's crazy to sometimes see good camera work.
Oh yeah, super rare.
It's terrible, and it's really strange how it's wow, this is just a wide angle shot or bopping between two faces back and forth in the world's clumsiest 3-camera sitcom.
Well, we have many more games that will adapt that aesthetic to come.
Yes. And this is the final question we've got here from Bita, B-I-T-A. What's the most interesting cut content you've made? Or I guess to expand that out if it doesn't apply, what is the most interesting scrapped project you've made?
For cut content with Perfect Vermin, we kind of cut half the game. Perfect Vermin has an equal amount of levels that we cut from the game than actually made it into the game. Originally, where we have the upside down level in the game, there was 2 other ones that could occur there. One being a super tall stretched floor, we just stretched the entire thing on the y-axis, which was crazy. And one that was there's a song on the soundtrack called Shadows in the Maze, and that was from a level where there was all these cube-shaped rooms with doors, and every time you'd smash one to move to another cube with doors in it, the lights would turn out behind you, and it was the darkness was pursuing you through it, and it gave me really bad anxiety. We ultimately cut those because we thought the upside down level was the strongest of the 3, and we said look, it's a case of we've got a bunch of good ideas and a couple great ideas, so we need to cut it down to that. But also the ending of Perfect Vermin was originally about twice the length, and we cut levels upon levels. The flesh tunnel right before that final cinematic scene was originally an entire level, but we looked at it and said, all right, what are we trying to say, and can we say this in a more concise way? So for a variety of reasons, we cut pretty much half the game. Swallow the Sea similar. In Swallow the Sea, originally the whole game had a gravity mechanic where it was kind of an open world thing where you'd move around and events would happen. But then we said we're only going to live so long, and this game that we're designing is too big, and we don't want it to be that. We want it to be basically a test run for something bigger we'd make in the future. So we cut the gravity mechanic, and in turn cut a third of our creatures because they used the gravity mechanic, and you got what you have now.
Yeah.
So.
I have a kind of, I guess, insane, now that I talk about it, it sounds insane, piece of cut content from Pixel Puzzle Makeout League. During the ending of the game, I guess I'm just going to spoil it, so spoilers, and it makes a lot more sense if you play through the full game, but the ending of Pixel Puzzle Makeout League, this Picross dating sim, is a full interactive live-action music video in which you followed one of the characters out of the world of the game and back into their own world, not necessarily the real world, but in it to bring the player into the story as well. We constructed an actual puzzle board in the real world and printed the numbers of the fonts and everything that we use in the game, and basically buried it in the beach so that the character would sort of be solving a puzzle in their own world, as a physical part of the world on the beach. And so the way it works is you see kind of it's sort of a split screen where on the left is the puzzle board, and you're solving it, and you click on squares like you would in the game to fill in squares, and it's filling it in with kind of pictures of sand where the full picture will be when you solve the puzzle. And on the right is a visualizer of sort of a little more emotional, the character kind of looking out, a little more wistful, a little more reflective, and you're supposed to just kind of vibe with it. What we originally did was we had filmed, because it's a 10 by 10 grid, not a full 100, but we meticulously green screen filmed every single square of the solution being filled in over a green screen with the character's hand and like a stick actually scratching into the sand of the puzzle. And the idea was that not only is the music looping infinitely and is like a perfect unbroken music video, even though you can interact, but the video was going to be like a truly interactive FMV sequence where like you're clicking on a square and the character's hand will come out and fill in that square, bring their hand back, you pick another one, they fill that back in. So truly, like I said before, is like the magic trick, this prestige moment would be like, this is truly an entire music video where you could watch it and you wouldn't even realize it's interactive, to completely just shock people. However, you guys can guess. We got all the footage. It was really hard. We were going to have to, like, After Effects individually cut each frame out. And so instead of making it like this truly like jaw-dropping yet ultimately like, you know, simulacrum, like why would anyone do this to this meticulous point? We just opted for the more artistic, the cooler, cuter kind of easier on my poor co-team member who was actually putting it all together instead of me just shooting the footage version. So that was kind of insane, but again, it was so insane that when we cut that full vision, we fell back onto something that was still extremely cool.
So handedly, the wildest thing I've ever cut is the like 2.5-year project I was working on. That was like an alternate universe, an anarcha, communist, Jewish, choose your own adventure novel based on like the format of like traditional rabbinical commentary, which was like, I'm never going to finish it because it's way too complicated in its original the way it was originally envisioned, and I ended up like taking lots of it and turning that into like spin-off projects. But the piece that would never see the light of day was that I wanted to plot out like the political escape of the revolution, which is when it's set. So I created a war game, a tabletop war game, and wrote out all the rules and just got a bunch of pieces together, and then I played that out over the course of like a day and a half, and then wrote down what the results were. And that was a fucking crazy way to outline everything, and that war game's never going to see the light of day.
Wow. No, I am very into that solution to making something. There's like, when people say like keep your lore between the surface, that is like 100% lore all between the surface. Your iceberg is like an ice cube on the top.
Yeah, so like A Great Miracle Happened Here is a spin-off of this project, and on a way to deciding eventually that it's just set in like kind of just Russia, there is a war game in the background that I ran just to like imagine what the revolution works like. And like, it was not even a good game, it was just to get me mentally to where I wanted to be to start outlining.
Does that game have bear any similarity to the one in Traitor Nightly?
So Traitor Nightly is set in the same world as this unfinished work. Traitor Nightly is one of the spin-offs. And I imagined it as if Traitor Nightly is like the chess of that world where everyone plays Traitor Nightly, this game is the Risk.
Okay.
So it exists in universe. It's used by political scientists in that universe, and it's called Hyper Traitor.
So you have two made-up war games in this universe.
I do, but only one of them, like Hyper Traitor, is never going to get published. Yeah. It's not good. It was just an outlining tool. But yes, in that universe, there's Traitor, which is like everyone plays Traitor, and then there's Hyper Traitor, which is like probably it's like Risk. It's not that good.
Yeah, it's like, well, wait a minute. When we sit down and play it, like the optimal
sucks.
play strat, like
Yeah.
ignoring the fact that chance plays a wild role in it.
Right, but in that world, it's Risk. But like political scientists use it as like a quasi-religious divination technique.
Yeah, I'll say, will I ever finish that wrestling game I started? Who knows? You know, I want to make a game where it's one part. It's like if you took Stuntman and like turn what's the timed attack based RPGs and made it all play like Live Alive and made it about professional wrestling, that would be the game. And I used to demo it. That was going to be my thing. That was what inspired me to make Indiepocalypse. That's because cool. I was like, I want to make money with this game. I do not like the job that I'm doing. What if I can make money making the things that I like? And I looked at the market, as it were, and I was like, well, shit.
Yeah.
This does not exist for the kinds of thing I want to make. What if I made that market myself? So I'm calling it scrapped, half scrapped. Will I get the time eventually to get back to it? We'll see. Only the time in the future can tell. We'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
But that all said, questions aside, we are approaching the end of this show. This has been a long show, a good show, and I've got to ask everyone, this is the time where we get to plugs, and I'm going to go clockwise according to what I see on my stream, but I'll just say your name so you know who I'm talking to. Maceo, what have you got to plug?
Yeah, I check out my games.
Oh, good. Where can you find them?
Yeah, you can find my games at itsthemaseo.itch.io.com, I think. Yeah. No, not .com.
Just
what am I
.io.
talking about there? It has been a long stream. I am melting into oblivion as we end. Yeah, at itch.io. All my stuff is labeled It's the Maceo, and Maceo is not a common name, so it's quite easy to find. Yeah.
And that's
Twitter,
Maceo,
YouTube.
Maceo.
Maceo. Yep.
In case you try to guess wrong from just hearing us say it.
Yes. A lot of people have a tricky time with my name, but that's fair because it's not a common one.
Yeah.
So.
I have a weird last name, but listen, we don't need to get into that here.
Do you want to give us your last name, middle name, mother's maiden name, and the last couple digits of your credit card?
The color of my first car.
Yeah. Do you have any childhood pets? Their names could be valuable as well.
Yeah. Yes. No. Anyway, Esther, what's your plugs?
Yeah, you can find my games at subalterngames.itch.io. So that's SUBALTERN games at .itch.io. My latest one is A Great Miracle Happened Here, but I have like a whole bunch of other stuff on there. And you can follow me on Twitter at Subaltern Games. So SUBALTERN Games.
And you got a .com for all that too, right?
Oh yeah, I got a .com also. Yeah, subalterngames.com.
That nice .com. I'm surprised I was able to get indiepocalypse.com for like $15.
Nice.
Somehow nobody bought that. James, what have you got to plug?
I have no .com, but I can plug a .love domain.
Yes, I've been thinking of getting into.
I guess.
I've been thinking of getting into boutique URL and some .horses.
I love it.
So I'm James. I go by Beautiful James online until Capcom decides to stop me. You can find me on Twitter at Beautiful James. DEIWTIFUL James. And then you can check out my studio where I'm doing stuff right now at Rude Ghost Games. We are Rude Ghost, but we just call it Rude Ghost Games because some guy in September 2010 started Rude Ghost and we can't get the account even though he's not active.
Yeah, somebody has at Indiepocalypse. I made at Indiepocalypse _ and I was like, fuck it. I'll just not use it.
They have no system for that. But yeah, you can check out my latest game, Pixel Puzzle Makeout League, by going to picross.love, picross.love. We wanted to get puzzle.love. You know, people always think it's a dating site. You can also find us on Itch as well if you'd like to find us on Itch. SkyMap Games, our publisher, skymapgames.itch.io. You can find it there as well. But you can, check out picross.love. You can buy Pixels Makeout League on PC through Itch, Windows, Mac, and the Nintendo Switch. If you like that. If and you
Where
like
fine
it.
video games can be purchased. I will say
Video games
what was
can
that?
be purchased because most video games are available on the platform all at once. Oops.
Perfect. And I will say, for my part, you should buy Indiepocalypse. You should join Indiepocalypse.
Yeah.
Indiepocalypse.com. Buy Indiepocalypse. I have an itch page. It's my personal brand is Pizza Prank. So that.itch.io leads to my page, which has all the Indiepocalypse stuff. Or you just go to my own personal website, Indiepocalypse.com, which will redirect to pizzapranks.com. But it also has all the games there. Buy them there. Buy them on Itch. Buy them on Game Jolt. They're also there, even though less people use it.
I specifically recommend Indiepocalypse number 9. I just got a good feeling about that one.
That is like good.
Gives me good energy.
You know what other one I also really like? Indiepocalypse number 10. I think it's also like...
I forget.
I've heard good things about Indiepocalypse 10, but I've been told that Indiepocalypse 9 is where it's really at. So I'm just putting it out there, putting it in the world.
I have it on good authority that Indiepocalypse 9 may have $7 coming its way at the end of the month.
Nice.
I think I was supposed to reach out and ask if we wanted to put Thief Town in Indiepocalypse, but that never happened. So maybe we should get into Indiepocalypse.
I mean, if you want to put it in there, absolutely. We have no problem with paid games in Indiepocalypse. What was I saying? Indiepocalypse.com/submit to submit your games. Indiepocalypse.com/zine if you want your stuff, comics or reviews. I don't know if I'm going to keep reviews forever. I think I'm going to do something different. I think I'm going to pivot to, like, as you'd say in the modern parlance, to something different. I think I'm going to do, like, specific, like, columnists or something. I have people in mind I'm going to talk to and reach out to that I want to have in the zine. I don't know what I'm doing with that zine yet right now, fully. Like, there's this trade-off between spending money on it because I have to pay everybody involved. And
you could feature zines within the zine.
I do, yes. Also, zines within the zine.
You could just have like nested zines that just keep going and going.
I do actually. That's why every issue of Indiepocalypse also comes with Natalie Lawhead's Electric Zine Maker. If you wish to make your own zine and include it in that so that people may print out their copy of Indiepocalypse, cut out your zine, and then fold it into making a zine. You should put your zine in there, Chris. It's a good suggestion. This is an example. I am talking to the chat, but that's because I know this person. I am not setting a precedent where you can talk to the chat, and I will talk to you. Bong Lord, it ain't fucking happening, dude. Do I have any other URLs? Indiepocalypse.com/radio brings you here. And let me go to my hover.com page to see where other my redirects go. Keep me signed. When I say keep me signed in, I mean keep me signed in, not just do it. Indiepocalypse.com/Patreon. If you don't want to buy Indiepocalypse every month, just go to the Patreon. It charges you, and you don't have to think about it, and then you get a link. This podcast also comes out where podcasts are found, but it's on a delay. If you go to Patreon, you get them all the Monday after this radio show launches. Otherwise, you have to wait like 4 weeks or something. Because I didn't want it to be a podcast, and people said they wanted it to be a podcast, and I was like, fine, that's work I didn't want to do, but I'll do it now. But also, I was like 5 episodes in, so I'm like, I'll make them pay for it if they want it right away. Because if you want to be on Indiepocalypse Radio, and I don't contact you directly because I know you, and I reach out to you, and that kind of thing, say indiepocalypse.com/I want to be on the radio. I think that's it. Indiepocalypse sounds...
Andrew, accidentally my volume turned off. Could you repeat that from the top?
This isn't for you, James. This is for the people out there in radio land and podcast land. All right? You cut your shit. We're too late in the show.
Before we end, though, thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having us on the show. It was great.
No, yeah, great to be here. Great to have you. Indiepocalypse.com/Discord. People use that Discord now. It was completely unused for like 6 months, but now people sometimes use it. I'm in there occasionally, extremely business and workmanlike. I may speak broadly about art, but you're not going to get to talk to know me personally there. 2021, reduce your parasocial relationships you have with people on the internet. You don't know them. Don't try to know them. They're strangers. Let him be that way.
Year to reach out to people online. I'm gonna stop doing that.
Yeah, if you don't know them, don't know them. If you meet them in a radio show situation like this, then maybe you could talk to them later. It's complicated. Independent art.
The only ones I have left.
Too many people make. I'm leaving. Good night. Everyone say goodbye. This is the end of the radio show. Goodbye, everybody.
If you hang
Goodbye.
up,
If you never hear
Goodbye.
from
I'm
me again, I'm
transitioning to the
probably
end.